Chapter 1597. After hearing the last sentence, Luoluo couldn't take it anymore. Luoluo couldn't take it anymore. She hung up the phone and ran to the underground car park. She didn't even ask for Xiao Jing's exact location. She was afraid that her voice would turn hoarse if she opened her mouth. He could still recognize his own car. But when she ran over, many things appeared in her mind. When she was very young, she carried her bag and walked out of this place. At that time, she didn't know what she would meet, what kind of people she would meet, and whether she would be able to turn the game into a competition. Later on, she was liked and disliked. She joined Xiangnan and won the championship. She thought that it was okay to be afraid of the dark. She just had to let herself shine. But if she couldn't shine, what should she do? Now she realized. He didn't want her here or there. There would always be a place she could go. He was her captain. He was also the person she never regretted liking. Over the years, what she had learned the most was to be on guard. Many people didn't understand, but he did. Hence, every time he would caress her head and not say anything. It didn't matter if she hated the person she once loved. It was because that person was still here. Xiao Jing sat in the car. His throat was burning. He looked at his phone many times. He was thinking about whether he should go up. When he placed his eyes outside, he was analyzing his personality. Rather than saying that he was confirming. Rather than saying that he was worried that he would see someone else in her eyes. The worship would be destroyed. He didn't want to live in her worship. He really regretted coming here. From worship to liking. It wasn't something that couldn't happen. Chinamo was right to mock him. He deserved to be abandoned. Xiao Jing leaned back. His gaze was far away. He was tired, but he couldn't fall asleep. He was thinking about which stage they were at. During the class reunion, they would definitely say that the two of them were the most compatible. Xiao Jing clenched his fists. He had never felt such an emotion before. He simply couldn't stand a person. Regardless of whether that person was good or not. He was really compatible with her. He even felt jealous. Yes, it wasn't that hard to admit some things. He was so jealous that he almost went crazy. Xiao Jing even wanted to go up now and take her away. It wasn't that she didn't have some kind of impulse, but she knew very well that after leaving that place, she would at least be at peace here. Zhao Sanpeng asked him if he was disappointed. He hadn't thought about that. They just wanted to continue fighting together. It was no different from before. The person who supported them no longer supported them. As long as they were still together, they could start over. However, sometimes seeing things too clearly would make one feel powerless. He no longer touched the game. Unless one day they can all come back. But the reality was that he was too old to build another team. So he stopped touching it. Xiao Jing coughed, swiped his finger across the screen of his cell phone, and stopped at the reply page. Just as he was about to type a sentence. The car door was pulled open. It was Luoluo. She stood there, her long hair a little messy like seaweed, accentuating her sharp facial features. Her red clothes were blazing just like when they first met. Chapter 1598. After Luoluo said this, her eyes lit up. Are you willing? Almost in the next second, Xiao Jing reached out and hugged her. Xiao Jing reached out and hugged the man. His voice was hoarse. I should be the one saying this. Luoluo could only hear her intense heartbeat. But you aren't good with words. I couldn't wait anymore, so I spoke first. I don't know how long I would have to wait for you to say it. You only know how to take care of things for us. Xiao Jing's hands paused. You knew? Sanpeng told you? About your retirement? Luoluo lowered her voice. I know you did it because of us. You don't have to give us reasons to relax. Admit it, you like me. Xiao Jing smiled. MMH, I like you. I liked you from the start and I still like you. If I have to date, you are the only one I can think of. I thought it was a habit, but it wasn't. Luoluo leaned her face on his shoulder. I'm probably the only fan who managed to get her idol. After all, a certain someone said that he wouldn't have sex with his fans. You are an exception. Xiao Jing didn't speak much, but the gentleness in his voice was obvious. There was nothing more beautiful than these 3 words. To an extremely principled person. How lucky she was to be an exception. Luoluo understood his meaning. If he really said anything, he wouldn't be the expressionless captain she knew. But, Luoluo's face paused when it touched his chin. Why was the temperature so high? She looked at his face. It was so pale, it was beautiful. You are already in such a state, but you are still waiting in the underground car park. Luoluo was so anxious that she wanted to pull him into the hospital. Xiao Jing's voice was calm. The only thing I can do is wait here. If I wake up, I will definitely go up and tell your classmates that we are the most compatible. Luoluo paused for a moment. Then she smiled. We are the most compatible. No matter what others said. It was fine if they thought she wasn't good enough for this man. It was fine if she wasn't outstanding enough. It was all in this sentence. She was in a hurry to go to the hospital. Her driving skills weren't good and she couldn't let Xiao Jing drive when he had a high fever. Luo still brought him up. He happened to see the group of students standing on the first floor. They hadn't started eating yet. When they saw Luo standing together with a handsome man, they were all stunned. After all, that man's temperament was really too good. It was clearly an ordinary white shirt, but when he wore it, it seemed to be transparent. He gave off the vibe of a young master from an ancient family. Gentle as jade with a strong scholarly aura. He didn't look like someone who should be with Luo. Luo, who is this? A student couldn't help but ask. Mr. Li, who was standing at the side, opened his mouth as well. They don't look the same. I'm sure this gentleman doesn't know how our great beauty Luo is judged. Chapter 1599. Get married soon? The people present weren't the only ones shocked. Luo herself was dumbfounded too. But the ones who had the biggest reaction were the students. After all, the man in front of her was too good. Didn't they say that no one wanted Luo? Why did such a person come out? Classmate Li's lips froze for a moment before he smiled again. Luolua's boyfriend? You have to take good care of Luo. She went on a blind date 2 days ago. I don't know if there's any misunderstanding between the two of you. The moment he said this, it seemed as though Luo, as a girl, was too casual in her relationship. Luo didn't say anything. She just wanted to leave with him. Her aura was strong. That was because the person in her hands was having a fever. But Xiao Jing pulled her back and hugged her waist. He met the gaze of the group of people. It's not a misunderstanding. Luo wanted to break up with me, but I didn't agree to it. Hence, I shamelessly chased after her. I always knew about the blind date. I was the one who went to fetch her that day. Luckily, she chose me in the end. The moment he said this, it made it impossible for them to continue the conversation. But there were always people who didn't give up. That's because you don't know how many people she has flirted with in her circle. I heard that she has a crush on their captain and it was recently exposed. This man is really magnanimous to be able to tolerate her so much. Xiao Jing glanced over, his expression calm. Is that so? I'm her captain. I didn't even know that she has a crush on me. For a moment, classmate Li's expression changed. After all, she had never thought about it. To see him in person. Didn't the fans say that the Almighty was a man of few words and wouldn't care about such matters? Why did he come over to their side? As for the rest, I've lived with her for 3 years. I know very well what she's like and I don't mind. I like her because she never gives in to anything. Even if she knows that the road ahead will be difficult, she keeps walking. She's the best mid in our team and this can't be changed by a few words. It's already very difficult for her to walk out from here and walk to my side. When she was young, she encountered many problems. That's nothing as long as she chooses me in the end. This part left the man with the surname Li completely speechless. Xiao Jing didn't deny it. He simply said, I know best what she's like and I don't mind. It stopped the man from saying anything. Some of the students present also vaguely understood the twists and turns in this matter. Even a man would inevitably run into trouble when he was working hard outside, let alone a woman. What's more, these words were the thoughts of men. The best mid laner. What did that mean? Men only needed to touch the game to know. Let's put the pro league aside for now. This wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Now that things had come to this, as old classmates, other than sending their blessings, there wasn't much else they could do. Brother, take good care of Luo in the future. She was the campus belle of our school back then and many people liked her. When people come and see this scene, they definitely won't be able to accept it. Xiao Jing's words today were really out of line. I won't give others a chance. Chapter 1600. Xiao Jing grunted in response. Before he left, he didn't forget to invite people to attend their wedding, especially after seeing Luolua's classmate who was a soldier. Other than smiling bitterly, classmate Lung was basically at his wit's end. In reality, Luo had already rejected him. Moreover, it was the kind of rejection that gave him no chance at all. But in his heart, he thought that as long as he waited, there would be hope. Now he more or less understood. When the two of them stood together, it was as if there was no room for anyone else. This had nothing to do with being in a relationship. That was something that could only be obtained with time. After saying goodbye to her old classmates, Luo took Xiao Jing to a taxi. Xiao Jing fell asleep almost as soon as he got in the car. He didn't know if it was because of someone's concern. Luo glanced sideways at this person and the corners of her lips curled up. There was an extremely beautiful smile on her pretty face. So many years. She seemed to owe him a sentence. Thanks for taking care of me. That was why she could still dream after experiencing so much. We all say that we like it strongly and we desperately want to tell that person. However, he didn't seem to be like this as he was a man of few words. Was it because he was the captain from the very beginning? Luo reached out and touched that person's eyes. When the driver saw this, he found it unbelievable. Miss, the two of you seem to have a good relationship. Luo replied. The sweetness was gone, but she still wanted to reach the hospital as soon as possible. Fortunately, she did not drive away from the underground parking lot. Her driving skills were not good and he was like this. After arriving at the hospital, Xiao Jing was hooked up to an intravenous drip and slept for less than an hour. Luo was thinking about what he said about getting married soon. According to this person's personality, he would never say anything casually. But marriage? Luo washed her face while he was asleep. He felt like he was dreaming. When she came back, Xiao Jing was already awake. Luo bought 2 bottles of water. She opened one and passed it to him. The phone in her mouth vibrated crazily. It should be from the discussion group. Only the discussion group would cause such a huge commotion. Luo swiped open her phone casually. When she lowered her lids to look at the page, her face turned slightly hot. Because the person in the group chat was none other than her. The reason was because of a certain someone's words. I just proposed to Luo. We're getting married soon. Help me tag her. You can reduce the gift money. F***CK, I must have opened my phone in the wrong way. Luo really? Lin Shintao said, you have to think it through. Marrying such an unromantic man will only drive you mad. I just finished lunch. I'm telling you, you're feeding me dog food again. Luo reject him. Marry me when I'm 18. Coco snorted. I'm the most handsome. Ha! Why do I feel like I'll be able to hold my godson soon? She changed her name again. Damn it. She was humiliated by Poker Face Xiao. What's so great about getting married? Lin Feng was very playful. Luo, wait for me. I will be amazing in the future. I will be handsome and rich. A domineering CEO is a good match for you. Yunhu arched a brow. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for you to become straight? He added, I wish you all the best, Xiao Jing and Luo. I want to be the best man. Bo Jiu smiled faintly. The bride will definitely only look at me and not the groom. Handsome Jiu, you're not. Goddess Luo, get to know him better. Lin Feng laughed. I want to know how Captain feels now. Poker Face Xiao is getting married, but he's still waiting for your college entrance examination. Ha ha ha. Chapter 1601. In less than a minute, Lin Feng received a call from his assistant. Manager Lin, the contract with the Qin Group has gone cold. Lin Feng stilled. His shirt collar was slightly open and he was half leaning on the sofa. He sat up immediately. Gone cold? How is that possible? We are brother companies. The assistant coughed lightly. The Qin Group told you to think about what you said. What did I say? Lin Feng stopped. How could he forget about his captain's vengeance? Yunhu was standing beside him. When he heard the voice, he glanced up from the report. What is it? Little Spade is really Captain's sore spot, Lin Feng said. He wanted to turn on the air conditioner because of the heat. Yunhu glanced at him. It's a small office, didn't you say to save as much as possible on the air conditioner? That's right. Lin Feng sat beside him. I'm hot. When Yunhu heard this, he reached over and pressed the back of the person's head. Then he leaned over and his thin lips landed on the person's neck. There was a hint of coldness. Is it still hot like this? Lin Feng stilled. It was even hotter. F***CK, he brought this person over to admire his beauty. It wasn't for him to make a move on him. It was the same for a boyfriend. Kiss kiss, he only knew how to kiss. His heart was beating extremely fast. Lin Feng wasn't a pretentious person. He pressed down on his shoulder and pushed him onto the office chair, intending to kiss him. Yunhu arched a brow. Isn't your waist uncomfortable? I'll F***CKU, Lin Feng said. Yunhu chuckled. What? He didn't believe in his abilities. Lin Feng's skills were indeed good. But for some reason, whenever he was with Yunhu, he always felt weak. At the start, he was indeed domineering. But he didn't know when it started, but he had been kissed senseless. It was the same this time. He was the one pressing down on Yunhu. How did it turn into him sitting on the office table? He stood up, and when he leaned over, his fingers had already unbuttoned his shirt. Did I mention that you're very handsome when you work? So handsome that I want you. The voice beside his ear was deep and bewitching. Lin Feng's breathing was no longer under his control. Next time definitely it's me who wants you. Yunhu chuckled and planted a kiss on his ear. I'll wait for you next time. However, the topic that Lin Feng started wasn't over yet. A certain almighty who was about to get married was sitting at a dinner table while others were still talking about the business circle. He said faintly, "This year's college entrance examination is really slow. Young Master Qin is also concerned about the college entrance exams?" At the dining table, Co Wang laughed. "My son is also taking the college entrance exam this year. Seriously, I've been looking forward to it day by day. I just want it to end soon." Does young Master Qin have a younger brother or sister taking the college entrance exam as well? Qin Mo replied absent-mindedly, "It's not my brother or sister, it's my wife." "Husband, madam?" The successful people at the dining table all paused for a moment. Then she remembered that Qin Mo was only in his early 20s. Understanding dawned on her. "Are you worried about your wife's results?" "I understand this feeling." Director Wang continued to lead the conversation in a normal direction. "Everyone is worried at this time." Unexpectedly, Qin Mo put down the wine glass in his hand, his voice cold and indifferent. "No, I just want her to finish her exams quickly and marry me as soon as possible." Chapter 1602. He really couldn't reply to this. Boss Wang, who was trying his best to lead the topic in a normal direction, stuttered. Mary, cough, I wish young Master Qin's wish will come true soon." After he finished speaking, he lifted his head and didn't speak anymore. Drinking was more practical. Qin Mo's thoughts didn't stop after the meal ended. After they got into the car, his assistant asked, "Are you going back to the company or your home?" Qin Mo replied nonchalantly, "To her place." Needless to say, his assistant already knew who she was. Before he drove off, he wanted to send a message to Miss Jiu to study hard. Qin Mo, who was sitting at the back, spoke again. "Don't do such things like sending messages." His assistant immediately kept his phone. He felt that his CO wasn't very patient today. At this moment, Bo Jio, who was biting a lollipop, was teaching her disciple how to use a Smurf account. What if she got bullied? Although her disciple was fierce, there weren't many people who knew what was good for her. Little Mo Bei, who was sitting in front of the computer, glanced up and said faintly, "Master, it's time for you to write your test questions." "I don't have the energy to write, I'm hungry." Bo Jio smiled devilishly. She supported her chin with one hand. "How about I bring you out to eat hot pot?" Little Mo Bei stood up. "I'll cook for you." You can't eat stimulating food before the National Higher Education Entrance Examination. Bo Jio raised her eyebrows in amusement. "Where did you get all these from?" Little Mo Bei was expressionless. She seemed to be thinking for a moment before saying, "My neighbor's sister is also taking the National Higher Education Entrance Examination. Her family members all say that." Bo Jio's slender figure leaned against the wall. She bit on a strand of dog's tail grass lazily. She had a handsome side profile. "I'm bored. I want a drink." "You can't drink either." Little Mo Bei took a potato. "Shall we make potato beef?" Bo Jio leaned back. "There's no meaning in life if I can't eat hot pot or drink." Little Mo Bei washed the potato and placed it on the chopping board. She comforted her master seriously. "After the National Higher Education Entrance Examination, you can marry your master's wife." Bo Jio's eyes lit up. Beneath her silver hair, she smiled. "All right, I'll bear with it. Compared to hot pot and wine, your mistress is more important." "That's a good title, use it more often in the future." Before Little Mo Bei could nod, she saw the figure that appeared behind her master. Bo Jio realized it too. Before she could turn around, a clear and cold voice rang in his ears, "Master's wife? Isn't that a good title?" "I'm his master, so of course you're his wife." Bo Jio pretended to be deep. "Otherwise the seniority would be messed up." Qin Mo smirked, holding on to her wrist as he walked up the stairs. A certain someone still needed to be disciplined behind closed doors. As for the method of discipline, it would always end with marks on Bo Jio's collarbone. It is still the same today. Bo Jio raised her head, the curve of her jaw carrying a fragile beauty, but also as handsome as a youngster. She lowered her voice. Her breathing was a little messy, but he could still vaguely hear her saying, softer. Chapter 1603. Bojio felt that the Almighty was being too reserved. He didn't need to wait for the exam to be over. But on second thought, marrying after the exam wasn't a bad idea. Chinamo glanced at the devilish smile on a certain someone's face. He arched a brow and placed the jacket over her head. It was better not to see this fellow. Especially when her collarbone was exposed, it would always make her lose control. Bojio didn't understand. She pulled the jacket off and was about to speak. Do you want to explain the term mistress? Chinamo glanced over casually. Bojio smiled, changing the topic naturally. It's princess, it has been affecting my exam papers. Princess who was eating cat food on the balcony. Tell me I'm still eating, how did I get implicated? Chinamo glanced up, glancing towards Princess before his gaze landed on a certain someone's face. He asked slowly, how did it affect you? Whenever I'm writing the exam papers, it would ask me to play with it. If I don't, it would be depressed, Bojio said in a serious tone. Princess's fur stood up. Meow meow meow. You were the one who wanted to tease me, I definitely wouldn't be depressed. It's a cat's nature, can you blame me? Bojio smiled lazily. Look, it's asking me to play with it again. Princess. How infuriating, but it couldn't speak. Meow. She must have been really bored to be able to tease a cat like this. Chinamo raised his finger, pulling her back, his voice calm. Don't bully a cat. Princess. Master, sob sob sob. Fortunately, you haven't been seduced by its beauty. Chinamo continued, I'm delaying your exam papers. Princess. Just pretend it didn't meow. I can't focus if you don't look at me, Bojio replied lazily, her hand still wrapped around Chinmo's waist with a devilish smile. Princess truly felt that his master was in danger of being slept with by this fellow. But his master didn't think so, instead he enjoyed it. Even though his master didn't show it on his face, his gaze hadn't left her face ever since he entered. Forget it, since a certain someone had fed him dried fish today, he would just treat it as a daily show. But he was willing to bet. If the master was here, this fellow would only look at the master and not write the examination paper. In any case, he didn't like to study. Of course, Chinamo knew that, but under normal circumstances, he wouldn't be able to reject a study companion. Especially since it was suggested by a certain someone. Chinamo unbuttoned his sleeves. How many papers are left? Bojio replied lazily, not much. Chinamo knew her well. You didn't write much? Bojio saw that she had been exposed so quickly. She leaned back in her chair and smiled suavely. How is that possible? I'm also someone who finished an entire paper. Chinamo glanced sideways. His expression was calm and his voice was the same. Lord Gio is really amazing. You can only finish 1/20th of the task in an entire day. An ordinary person would be able to write 2 test papers if they just did it casually. How did you waste your time and only write 1? Grandfather Butler, who knocked on the door and came in with tea and snacks, only wanted to laugh when he heard this. Young Master Chin's poisonous tongue always managed to stab young Lord. However, perhaps ordinary people didn't understand, but it was really good to have someone to manage the young master like this. Chapter 1604. In order to prove that she was doing something proper, she whipped out her phone and swiped a few times, a devilish smile on her face. I'm choosing a partner's suit and gown. Since my goddess is getting married, I have to look dashing. Chinamo glanced at her, his voice faint. Why are you dressed so handsomely for Luolua's wedding? We have to let Poker Face Xiao maintain a sense of danger at all times. Bojio stuffed one hand into her pocket. Chinamo smirked. What? Are you planning to kidnap the bride? Bojio held her chin and tilted her head to kiss him. She smiled. Brother Mo, Luoluo is a girl. In other words, you don't have to be jealous at all. The corners of Chinmo's lips lifted and he replied nonchalantly, the people calling you hubby on the internet are all girls. They don't mind that you are a girl and they still want to marry you. What do you think about this? Bojio knew he was referring to the time when someone had confessed to her. Her face was cold and serious. I have a family, external seduction won't work on me. Chinmo knew that her words couldn't be trusted, but a hint of a smile still flashed across his eyes. Remember what you said. It's the same even if you go to university. You have a family, so you should stay away from your seniors. Bojio wasn't very interested in other people. But for some reason, perhaps because she was about to graduate, she received a lot of love letters. The last time, Chinmo had seen it by accident. Only then did he realize that it was wrong to say that girls were not a threat. A certain someone's face really attracted flowers and butterflies. Not only did he have to guard against the men, but he also had to guard against the girls. He really wanted to hide a certain someone so that no one could see him. Bojio wasn't aware of his thoughts since the Almighty's expression had always been cold and indifferent. The only thing she was thinking about now was that if her father was still here, she would definitely tell her father that she was going to marry the little Princess Chin that she had been yearning for day and night. She was no longer alone. Downstairs, Grandpa Butler's hand that was flipping through the calendar paused for a moment, then he looked down at the pocket watch in his palm. The day was almost here. The day the master left. Every year at this time, young master would be different from usual. It was probably because he was too young at that time. But within half a year he had to face 3 separations. The young master even firmly believed that his master was not harmed and that he would bring his wife back one day. However, everyone knew very well in their hearts. That kind of hope was too slim. If master was still here, he would have appeared long ago. Year after year, sometimes people had to give themselves hope if they wanted to move on. The young lord never said that she was born in the dark, wanton and evil. She was so elegant that she could always withdraw from the night scene. But every time he pulled away he felt even more lonely. The old butler knew all of this. Many people felt that his back view was handsome. He was a lone wolf, unrestrained and unrestrained. No one thought that he once had a family that everyone envied. Her father liked to live off a woman and always looked like a teenager. Her mother loved to wear professional attire, elegant and beautiful, and would give her the best food to eat. Young master had experienced all of these before. A year after master left, he had seen young master wake up at night. His little figure was curled up on the sofa in the living room, as if he was waiting for someone. He had been waiting for so many years. Chapter 1605. As a qualified housekeeper. Grandfather Butler would definitely tell Chinemo about this. He even mentioned something else. Young lord went back to look for you and left a letter in your mailbox. Letter? Chinemo's eyes flashed. Grandfather Butler continued, actually, young lord probably hoped that you would accompany her back then. After all, the changes were too big. That was the sentence. When Chinemo walked back to his room, his heart felt a little sluggish. He reached out and hugged the person who had already fallen asleep on the bed. He kissed her hair. He didn't take good care of her. At that time he shouldn't have left. With that thought, Chinemo stood up and dialed his assistant's number. Prepare 2 plane tickets overseas. MMH for me and her. After her exams, Bojio didn't know about the plane tickets. This day she woke up earlier than any other day. It was strange. In her previous life she had never taken exams seriously. This time she took it seriously. But compared to the other students, Bojio was much more relaxed. Many taxis were free on this day for the students taking the college entrance examination. Some private cars tried their best to avoid the roads with schools. This was to ensure that the roads were clear so that the students could take their exams in peace. There were also medical staff outside the competition grounds. The most obvious one was probably the slender figure who appeared at the school gate on a skateboard. She had silver gray hair and a tear-shaped mole at the corner of her eye. She always gave off a devilish vibe and was very handsome. Many people thought that Bojio wouldn't apply for a school that had a high requirement for results. After all, even if she didn't take the exams, she would still have a good future. But they didn't know that this exam was the key to marrying little Princess Chin. Hence, even when she opened the exam paper, Bojio's side profile was more serious than before. She didn't wear her school uniform today. She wore a pure black t-shirt with earrings. She looked like a vampire prince. Her skin was very white. When her gaze landed, the rustling sound of her pen on the exam paper could be heard. Her handwriting wasn't ugly. It looked like Chinmo's handwriting. This wasn't strange. After all, when she was young, Chinmo held her hand and taught her every stroke. Hence, the handwriting was 70 to 80% similar. Most of the provinces had 2 days for the college entrance exam. For every student, these 2 days were the final struggle. Sleeping early and waking up early had never happened to her before. But for the past 2 days he had been living a normal life. When the bell for the last round rang, almost every student leaned back in their chair and sighed in relief. Then came the excitement, the uncontrollable excitement, but also a little disappointment in his heart. Bojio didn't feel disappointed at all. Finally he could marry little Princess Chin above board. Basically, he was thinking about how to take advantage of her. Bojio walked casually with her skateboard. Just as she was deep in thought, she glanced up and saw the person waiting for her. She couldn't help smiling. There was a hint of devilishness as she reached out to hug the Almighty's waist. He reached out and held her wrist. Seeing that she didn't take advantage of him, a hint of a smile flashed across his eyes. The 3 Dharma seals were still faint. Time is tight. Let's hug in the car. Chapter 1606. China Mo glanced at her. Other than hugging, what else can you do? Behave yourself. Bojio didn't know what to do with the little princess. Fine, behave yourself. But she hadn't expected a chauffeur. Also, the direction wasn't right. Are we going to the airport? Bojio would memorize the entire city map no matter which city she went to. This was a talent she had been nurtured by Mr. Bo since young. Besides, she had been in Jiang City for so long. Of course, she was familiar with the basic route. China Mo replied calmly. We're going on a business trip. You're considered my luggage. When he said this, Bojio was reminded of her childhood. When he had come back, she had wanted him to treat her as his luggage. She had wanted to hide in the luggage. That was really childish. Business trips were good too, she didn't have to wait for the results. Once the results were out, she would pass the admission requirements. She would ask grandfather Butler to prepare for the wedding. Bojio was indeed treated as his luggage. That was because China Mo had only brought 1 luggage. When they were changing the boarding pass, Bojio sat on it. China Mo held onto the luggage handle with 1 hand. You're going to be checked in too? The flight attendants will reject me since I'm so handsome. It's safer to leave me outside. Bojio was still wearing a mask because the movie had been online for a long time. It was easy to meet people who would recognize her. China Mo held onto her hand. It's not safe to leave you anywhere. Bojio. She wasn't a ticking time bomb. The person walking in front must be a multi-level marketer, Bojio said lazily. I can hack into his phone network and... China Mo reached out and lifted her chin. Through the mask he kissed her lips. Hacking into his phone network is illegal in China. Kiss me a few more times and I'll consider stopping, Bojio said devilishly. China Mo pinched her face. When grandfather Butler hears this, he will feel that he has failed to teach you. I'm also tempted by his beauty. Bojio smiled faintly. China Mo looked at her face, his eyes deepening. Then he pulled her into the corner. Further ahead was the smoking area, which happened to be a blind spot. He reached out to remove a certain someone's mask. When he lowered his eyes, even the strength of his arm around her waist had changed. The tip of his tongue came into contact with a slightly cool touch, and a numb feeling rose from his tailbone in an instant. Then his mind went blank. Bojio thought about it. Back then, if they had only sent him over and used the honey trap to the end, she would have surrendered long ago. It was not good to only look at one's face. Yes, it was indeed not good. But kissing seemed to be able to fascinate people. I want to be closer to you. That way he would be able to avoid thinking about some dark things. She had said long ago that when one didn't know what warmth was, they probably wouldn't crave it so much. However, after knowing this, even if he was in the dark, he still wanted to be illuminated by the light. Every year at this time, she would feel that everywhere was empty, so she would stay in the nightclub for several days in a row, surrounded by a group of people. Lively places seem to have this kind of magic. At the very least, it could occupy some of your thoughts and prevent you from thinking about certain things. There should be no more nightmares this year. After kissing, there were sweets to eat. Chapter 1607. When they reached the plane. The person beside him was indeed much more obedient. When China Mo turned his head, she was already asleep. Her silver hair fell down and hit the bridge of her nose. She looked strangely obedient. The air stewardess came a few times. China Mo indicated that it wasn't necessary. Then he emptied his hand and covered her with a blanket. His eyes paused for a moment as he looked at that face. Sometimes he would always think about it. If he had really taken her away as a piece of luggage back then, wouldn't he have so many regrets if he did that? Whenever he thought about that small figure hugging the keyboard and sleeping when he wasn't around, he would feel an indescribable pain. There would always be an indescribable discomfort. She was still here. She was still here. China Mo thought for a moment. He reached out and took the amulet off his neck and put it on her. He caressed Bojio's hair. Then he kissed her lightly. When the air stewardess saw this scene, she felt that it was beautiful. It wasn't like she hadn't seen couples on the plane, but she had never been like this man. He clearly had a cold and noble temperament, but his eyes never moved away from another person. Even the person who was sleeping moved his thin lips. The corners of his mouth would curl up as if he was smiling. How much did a person like another person? He could look at the other person for up to 8 hours and he wouldn't feel tired. Even when he saw the other person's actions, he would want to laugh. Moreover, she had never seen someone with such patience. Little Bojio, drink some water. He fed her personally. Even if she didn't wake up, he had to ensure that she drank water on the plane. After drinking the water, Bojio slept well. The moment she opened her eyes, she felt hungry. Chinamo peeled a piece of candy for her. We're about to land. Eat after we land. What do you want to eat? Hot pot. Bojio leaned on the small table and smiled. Order 5 servings of beef. Be reserved. The air stewardess listened. This was the first time she saw someone eating hot pot overseas. And 5 servings of beef? Reserved? 5 times more reserved? Chinamo glanced at her. Bojio heaved a long sigh. Growing people like us eat a lot. You are probably the worst person who has ever been insulted while growing up, Chinamo said. His long fingers peeled open the packaging of the lunch bag and touched her lips. Bojio tilted her head and said as she ate, exams consume too much energy. We can look for William and get him to treat us. William? Chinamo chuckled. It seems like you guys are still in contact. Bojio paused in the middle of eating. I've already blacklisted him. I didn't even agree to add him. Why did you blacklist me? Chinamo replied slowly, we are about to hold our wedding. I will invite him and Hoshino to be the groomsmen. William, still flirting with the blonde in the pool, why does he suddenly feel a chill on the back of his neck? No matter what. After landing, Chinamo brought Bojio for a hot pot. Chinatown still had a very strong oriental atmosphere. You should be familiar with the street in front. Chinmo's voice was calm. Bojio glanced over. We fought there before. Honestly, Brother Mo, did you do a lot of research to catch me? If not, why do you know where I go and have so many tricks up your sleeves? Chapter 1608. Chinamo glanced at her, his voice calm. What kind of trick are you talking about? Disguising yourself and pointing at the competition video. In the shopping mall, you would boast about how cool you are when you play games with the boss who sells laptops. That kind of trick? That was obviously her dark history. Why would she care about such a dark history? Bojio smiled devilishly. Which genius came up with such a trick? It sounds cool. Chinamo seemed helpless. He reached out to pinch her face. Little Bojio. Mamich? Bojio watched his face, her heart itching. She wanted to touch him after she was full. The ancients weren't deceiving. The desire for food and beauty was probably what it meant. Do you want to play a game? Chinamo stuffed a hand into his pocket, his eyes bright. Bojio pulled herself away from the beauty and looked at him. What game? The last time we came we fought here. I was the one who found you. This time you will find me. What do you think? Chinamo lowered his gaze. If you find me I'll be yours. Bojio arched a brow. I can do whatever I want tonight? In the future you can do whatever you want. Chinamo hinted. If your hands are itchy we can come overseas. After all, you are Z. Bojio understood that he was giving up something for her but she didn't want to let go. He was hers. Besides, he was the one who agreed. How do we play the game? She was best at games. I will give you hints. Solve the hints before the sky turns dark and you will be able to find me. Chinamo looked at her. I might not be able to find you after the sky turns dark. Bojio glanced at the time. Where is the hint? It's in William's hands. Bojio felt that he was trying to trick her again. Chinamo saw through her thoughts. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. William, who was about to lay down, was startled. He wanted to curse in Chinese. Why did the devil call him at this time? Hello. William tried his best to show his imposing manner. Chinamo was nonchalant. Are you at the royal family hotel? Oh no. Why did this person who looked like an Eastern prince but was actually a demon know his position so well? You sent someone to follow me again, Chin. Friends don't do that. William argued. You Asians should be very cultured. Chinamo automatically ignored his words. Gio will find you in 20 minutes. There's something I want to give her in your bag. Give it to her. 9? You mean Gio? William immediately straightened his body and pretended to be a gentleman as he paced back and forth. I have to choose a suit. You know, she's my white moonlight, Chinamo scoffed. William, do you want the adult me to break your legs again? Hey, it's true, brother. You're being too cruel. I'm treating Gio now. In your Eastern language, my thoughts are very pure. I don't have any bad intentions. I just don't know if Gio will be excited when she sees me. It could be said that William's desire to live was very strong. Chin Mo's voice softened. You're thinking too much. Nothing about your looks can excite her. These words stung his heart. Why had Gio liked pretty boys since she was young? How did he lose? Chapter 1609. Did you hear that? Chin Mo glanced at the person beside him. Bo Gio arched a brow. Why do you have William's contact details? It's convenient for him to be my best man, Chin Mo replied slowly. Bo Gio laughed. Brother Mo, you're hurting me. Little William thinks his friendship touched you. Chin Mo pinched her face again. Just take the things and don't play with others. You don't have much time, understand? When did I play with others? Bo Gio was devilish. I'll definitely solve the game seriously later. Chin Mo looked at her. You go first. I'll leave after you enter the building. This way she couldn't play any tricks. Bo Gio felt regretful. I won't follow you secretly. Do you believe what you're saying? Chin Mo stuffed his hands into his pockets. Bo Gio smiled faintly and turned around. I'll definitely find you. Brother Mo, wash yourself up and wait for me. When Chin Mo heard this, he raised his beautiful eyebrows. Little Tiger Bo was always confused about her position in the world. Young master. The shadow that had been following behind them appeared. The things are prepared. They're at the back of the car. Chin Mo replied indifferently, MMH. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he waited until the shadow walked further away until he couldn't see it anymore. Then he walked in the opposite direction. Parked outside the crowd was a limited edition Lamborghini. On the surface it looked expensive. But in reality the most unusual thing about it was that it could speak. Devil, why are you alone? The rearview mirror reflected the surroundings. Where's my master? Chin Mo opened the car door and sat in the driver's seat. His side profile was handsome and elegant. She's playing a game. Aren't we waiting for her? As an intelligent sports car, it is very loyal. Chin Mo pressed the steering wheel with one hand and turned it. Let's wait somewhere else. Where? Little Blackie was confused. Some of the programs couldn't be answered, but it knew that someone had placed something behind it. The devil was definitely going to do something to its master. At this moment, Bo Gio walked into the Royal Hotel. Even though she didn't have the room card, it was easy for her to take the receptionist's card. After all, no one would have too much resistance to a handsome young man in a black jacket. Bo Gio raised her hand and pressed the floor button, thinking about the possible clues that might appear. William was still thinking of ways to get rid of his female companion. He couldn't let Gio see this side of him. Gio would definitely misunderstand. Seriously, that devil Chin Mo, why didn't he tell Gio to come? Baby, listen to me. William said to his female companion, who was hugging his arm and refusing to let go, I really can't do it today. Let's do it another day. The female companion didn't want to leave. After all, this was William. How do I know if you'll ask someone else out on another day? William wanted to say something. There was a swoosh. The door swung open. A tall and slender figure walked towards the swimming pool. The youth's hair was grayish-silver, and there was a hint of evil in his handsomeness. The black jacket on that person gave off a dark and mysterious aura. Chapter 1610. Most importantly, that person didn't seem to be embarrassed at all. Instead, he grabbed a white wooden chair and placed it next to the swimming pool. He sat on it and said to the female companion beside him, I need to borrow this person for a few minutes. After a few minutes you guys can continue to be intimate, okay? Honestly speaking, his female companion's eyes had been fixated on this person ever since he had entered. Now he was even more overboard. He actually looked like he was in full bloom. This first. Before William could finish his sentence, Bo Gio interrupted him. When you were young, I really couldn't tell that you had such a good taste. When you were young? Gio? William's back trembled. Bo Gio supported her chin lazily. It's me. Tell me, what did Momo put here? Gio, we haven't seen each other for a long time. You don't know that ever since you left, I haven't had any appetite. William basically used all the Chinese idioms he knew. Bo Gio raised her eyebrows. Brother, look at the time. What time? William was slightly confused. Shouldn't they be reminiscing about the past? In China, etiquette was the most important. Bo Gio spoke slowly, I have to decipher the clues before the sky turns dark. So, William, be more honest. What did he ask you to do? William blinked. He wanted to reach out for a hug. Gio, I don't think you should be so anxious, William. Gio accepted his hug and smiled. If you want to be beaten up by me, you can continue wasting time. If I can't marry Momo, I might accidentally destroy your house. William instantly froze. He believed Gio's words. When they were young, the devil had used this point. Why didn't Gio change after they grew up? William inhaled deeply. He had a big head and red hair. He looked aggrieved. He just asked me to take something. I haven't opened it yet. You know that I'm really traumatized by your devil MO. I don't dare to touch that thing. What if it's a bomb? Gio, really, he isn't like what you think. He's a little princess. You don't know how scary he was when he was young. He's so handsome. He's a little princess. Gio patted his back. Give it to me. William was speechless. He had completely lost hope in this world that only cared about appearances. Besides, he wasn't bad either. Looking at his reflection in the pool, he was also very handsome. The Easterners really don't know how to appreciate them. William took out a box dejectedly. That devil, could it be a ring? Gio didn't reply. She opened it and took the item out. This game, Super Mario? Didn't you like playing before? William didn't understand. He tried his best to wrap the scarf around himself. After all, no matter how handsome Nine was, she was still a girl. She was still his white moonlight. Why did the devil give you this? Gio didn't reply, her gaze landing at the side. There's a game console here? How do you know? The Royal Hotel is different from other hotels. It's the only hotel that provides an antique game console for everyone. William said excitedly. Gio took the game plug and walked over. Gio, what are you doing? Chapter 16:11. Anyone who had played Super Mario when they were young would know. There were 8 levels in the game and each level had 4 small levels. But players could find the sky-climbing vines to choose levels. For example, the second level of the first level could be skipped directly to the first level of the fourth level. In the second level of the fourth level, there were hidden gold coins and sky-climbing vines that could be skipped directly to the 8th level. If it was someone else, it would definitely take a long time to clear the 8 levels. Some people couldn't even clear the levels when they grew up. But to Gio, she was very familiar with this game and had even studied the programming code. She knew where the hidden compartment was. She sat on the carpet, holding the game controller and controlling the character in the game. At that time, the game wasn't as cool and vivid as it was now. It was just a little person with something on top of her head, jumping over all the obstacles and moving forward. But even so, William was already dazzled by the scene. After all, he had played Super Mario when he was young. Why hadn't he realized that it was possible to skip levels? And Gio's operation was too nice. However, William wasn't too surprised by this. After all, Gio was good at playing games when she was young. Very quickly, Gio reached the 8th level. The scene entered. Suddenly, it was blank. Then a photo appeared. It was when she was young. She was wearing a tiger costume and seemed to be waiting for water to feed her. Gio didn't have any impression of this picture. Then, the scene returned to the game. It was just that this game had been reprogrammed. Gio controlled the character. Every time she took a step forward and hit an obstacle, a corresponding sentence would appear. I like you. I liked you when I was young. I liked you when I grew up. Little Gio, Madam Chin. Come and get your sweets. Gio couldn't help but smile. William's eyes widened. *CK. Do Asians use this method to confess their love nowadays? That devil didn't seem like someone who would do such a thing. This was no different from coaxing a child. But Gio fell for this trick. Seriously? William inhaled deeply. He was speechless. The game ended here. There weren't any other levels. This meant that they had passed. But the clues? Gio glanced at the words. Finally, she lowered her gaze and pulled out all her memories. After sifting through many, only the Royal Hotel was left. 9. William tilted his head in confusion. Gio suddenly stood up and opened the fridge. It was a must for star-rated hotels. However, after opening the fridge, Gio's fingers stilled. William grabbed his hair and said, Who changed everything in the fridge into sugar? Aren't there only some sugar here? But under so many brightly colored skins of sugar. There was only one, and it was very eye-catching. It was made of black sugar with AZ logo on it. Gio reached out and took the candy out. Then she realized it was a small message device. This kind of thing ordinary people really could not get their hands on. But she often used it. Gio took it, pushed her fingers upwards and turned on the switch. Then, a noble and deep voice with a magnetic texture slowly came out from inside. Chapter 16:12. In the cartoon, Ding Dang accompanied Big Xiong for 80 years. Before Big Xiong died, he said to Ding Dang, "After I leave, you can go back to where you belong." Ding Dang agreed. After Big Xiong died, Ding Dang used the time machine to go back 80 years. She said to the young Big Xiong, "Hello Big Xiong, I'm Ding Dang." The low and deep aura, when transmitted through the recorder, always gave people a very unreal feeling. Bojo listened, not missing a word. Just when she thought it was over, the voice paused. "Little Bojo, there's a Ding Dang waiting for you now. Do you want to take him away and keep him at home?" As a bystander. This was the first time William completely felt the charm of the Eastern language. Inexplicably, he was reminded of his childhood. At that time, he was really afraid and couldn't stand the hypocritical Eastern prince. But suddenly, one day Joe moved away. The villa not far away no longer had lights. William was also very disappointed at that time. But he was just disappointed. Anyone would be unhappy for 2 days when their best friend disappeared. William felt that the Eastern prince was the same. But later he knew he was wrong. Because one day, he was blocked by the Eastern prince in the corner. William really thought that this guy wanted to expose his devil nature when others weren't around. Unexpectedly, he didn't take action. Instead, he looked at him. After a while, he said, "Where did she go?" William saw that the other party's mood wasn't right. He didn't know where Gio was, but he wanted to teach the arrogant Eastern prince a lesson. He immediately raised his chin. "Why should I tell you we aren't friends? Do you remember when you hit me? I was wrong." The very small person lowered his voice. "So where is she?" At that time, William felt that it was unbelievable. After all, the Eastern prince was a scheming person. Usually he would know that he was talking nonsense. But that day he didn't know why. He actually didn't notice anything. He even said to him, "I was wrong." William was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. In the end, he could only blush and tell the truth. He didn't know where Gio went. He thought he would really get beaten up. But that person didn't do anything. But after that, William would occasionally see a small shadow standing in front of the Bow family's door. Everyone said that Mr. An's grandson was gentlemanly and polite, a living successor of an aristocratic family. But when he stood in front of the Bow family's house, William could only think of a very poor vocabulary. Cold and lonely. It was as if he had been abandoned by the whole world. Many people seemed to have forgotten about Gio. The figure would still be standing there. So much so that even William could not forget his childhood friend. Because she had been waiting for someone. Later, the An family moved their business center back to China. Even so, every year William would receive a call from that person. She had beaten him in elementary school, and in middle school, the only thing she had asked him was whether he had seen the Bow family come back. After that, he didn't call for 3 years. William thought that he had given up. Later, he learned from old master and that he had lost his memory. Chinamo was truly a devil. He had never changed since he was young. However, there was one thing that had not changed. Chapter 16:13. To her, liking Chinamo was like a child who didn't have any candy. At first, she just wanted a piece of candy so that she could continue to taste sweetness in her life. She wanted to know what it felt like to like. She wasn't greedy. From that day onwards, when she hugged her little keyboard to sleep, she had learned not to be greedy. In the past, she had been too greedy. But now she had nothing. But he had given her a bag of candy. It seemed as though it would exist as long as she stretched her hand out. She wouldn't have to worry about it disappearing one day. Bojo lowered her lids, her silver hair covering her eyes. William couldn't see her expression. Was it too difficult for Gio to solve? Why did that devil recite a clip from a movie about Doraemon? What was he thinking? Even if Gio loved to watch cartoons when she was young, she should have been straightforward. Why did he have to find clues? But what exactly was the clue? William was interested in the game. He touched his chin and studied it. Bojo stood up and looked down at him. Car keys. Mamich? William was still in a daze. Bojo slung her black jacket over her shoulders and reached out. Your car keys, I'm going to look for someone. William's eyes widened. You know where he is? Bojo replied lazily, Mamich. William tightened the towel around him. He leaped over and dug out the car keys, tossing them to her even though he was a man and didn't need to be embarrassed. But he had only worn a pair of black underwear for his female companion. Gio's way of entering had been too domineering. He hadn't even had the time to wear his clothes. He had been wrapped in a towel until now. He was curious. How did you know where he is? Didn't the devil just recite a clip from a movie? No, there are many other clues. You are one of the clues. Bojio took the car keys and prepared to leave. William followed behind. I'm one of the clues? MMHU Super Mario Doraemon? Bojio glanced back, a devilish aura emanating from her. It's all related to when I was young. He was telling me that life is like the first time we met. You did it? He has been waiting for me at that place, waiting for me to return. William was stunned. That place. Could it be? Before he could voice out his conjecture, the slender figure had already disappeared around the corner. The receptionist in front of the Royal Hotel was talking to the guest, asking him if he needed to park his car. A red light flashed before his eyes. The wig on top of his head was blown away by the wind. Which customer was driving so fast? This was speeding. Bojio didn't look behind, she didn't have the time. It was going to be dark soon. There was still a long way to go. Therefore she had to be fast. Thus, on this day in the long silent Fifth Avenue, once again the siren sounded. This was because a red convertible was not only driving very fast, but even when it encountered a roadblock, it didn't even stop and directly drove past it. When the local officers on duty saw this scene, they got into their cars, shifted gears and chased after them. It had been a long time since he had seen such a scene. He dared to continue accelerating under the hot pursuit of the police. He had no intention of turning back. She even did a beautiful flick of her tail. She shook off the 3 cars chasing her. Her movements were handsome and arrogant, the smooth arc of the car shuttling between the cars. Her flamboyance was impeccable. The radio station did the corresponding broadcast. Chapter 16:14. Who is he? A young man who wasn't sure asked. Then she heard someone say, Z, it must be him. He's too cool. Z. The young man widened his eyes. It's really Z? The legendary Z. Other than him, there's no one else who can drive like that, and the police can't do anything to him at this time. It wasn't hard to hear the excitement in his voice. It seemed like the MC was a fan of Z too. It wasn't just the MC. When the name Z was mentioned, Moe Chen's eyes lit up. Even the people watching the screen had all sorts of reactions. Z was actually back. Did that mean that the Matrix was going to rise again? No one noticed. Just as this video was being broadcasted, not far away, a man in a suit who gave off a lazy and elegant aura, held a cigarette between his fingers as his lips curled up into a smile. Uncle, why are you smiling? Nothing. That person retracted his gaze. He seemed to be distracted and shallow. Compared to some people's revelry, William was really in pain. His phone had been ringing non-stop since a while ago. Every message was related to his car. Violation, violation, and violation. William's eyes widened and he grabbed his hair. Joe, what on earth did you drive my car to? At this moment, Bojio had already disappeared from everyone's sight. In the past she had been a low-profile black. Now she was an arrogant red. But no matter which color she was, the appearance of this person meant that the Fifth Avenue would become different again. Some people didn't welcome Z's return. Especially the hidden power and money transactions. Didn't they say that the Hacker Alliance had collapsed? Why did this person appear again? A certain gang boss in the Fifth Avenue, who was usually their nemesis for the nightclub territory, didn't fight for the goods. Instead, he made an unprecedented phone call. It was because Z had appeared again. The 2 bosses temporarily put aside their grudges. They were seriously thinking about how to guard against Z. However, no one knew that they wouldn't just have to guard against Z. The hardest to deal with would be the person beside Z. More importantly, Bojio didn't have time to deal with these people. Now she only wanted to see her little Princess Chin and tell him that she hadn't changed. The sports car skimmed over the bridge, its body flashing. With another turn, it drove directly into the villa area. It was already dark. Bojio lifted her lids and looked into the distance. Because many years had passed looking at this place now, he felt that it was somewhat different from before. But when she got closer, she realized that the small courtyard surrounded by white logs, the lawn, and the 2-story attic gave Bojio an illusion. It was as if the moment he turned around he would be able to see the person he once knew. The moonlight gradually shone down. Bojio walked forward until she reached the innermost villa. A Chinese character was carved on the wooden sign on the fence. The word, thin, was clearly visible. A familiar slender figure was standing by the fence, with one hand in his pocket and the other holding a piece of paper. That piece of paper should have just been taken out of the mailbox, and he could still see the traces on it. Bojio paused and glanced over. Chapter 16:15. Bojio suddenly smiled. Her silver hair swayed with the wind. She looked lazy and unruly. Originally she wanted to walk over and hug him. Then she would start taking advantage of him. After all, a certain Almighty had said that as long as she found him, he would be hers. Unexpectedly, before she could do anything, she was pulled into his arms. As she breathed, she could smell the fruity aroma of the trees mixed with the minty tobacco on his body. Bojio had always been thick-skinned. After she was hugged, she wrapped her arms around his waist. I was always worried that we wouldn't make it in time. I didn't expect the sky to turn dark. It's okay if it turns dark. Chinamo lowered his gaze. We can still wait for a long time. Bojio looked at him. Then is he mine? I've been yours for a long time. Chinamo lowered his voice, his eyes filled with emotions. After he read the letter, he understood that he wasn't the only one who was upset back then. There were even some typos in the letter. But it didn't affect the meaning she wanted to express. Momo, don't be angry, okay? I'm in a very big castle now. Although Grandpa Butler said that Grandpa and would definitely not agree, I still want to ask you, are you willing to stay in the castle with me? I can buy you a lot of writing brushes. Don't you like to write? If you are willing, write back to me. I will definitely come back to get them. Chinamo looked at Momo and said, Momo, I miss you so much. There is no one here to buy me candy to eat and no one to help me roll up my sleeves. I have already wet a few pieces of my clothes when I was washing my face. I know that you are angry that I went out with William, but I didn't go out to play. Because I was worried that something would happen to my father and mother, I went to pray. Chinamo didn't know how she felt when she came back to get the letter. But the moment he closed his eyes, he seemed to see her wearing little tiger pajamas. She was washing her face with great effort. Her sleeves were always wet, but she was alone because no one was helping her. He remembered that his grandfather had asked him in the past. Was he really going to treat little Tiger Bo so well? At that time he had thought that since he had decided to raise the child, he had to raise her well. Moreover, a certain someone was extremely stupid. If he didn't raise her well, who would? But he didn't do it. The words on the letter were all crooked. Even his tone was very childish. At that time, was there no one else besides Grandfather Butler by her side? He had told himself that he would take good care of her, but he had failed to do so. Chinamo tightened his grip, his breath landing beside her ear. His voice was magnetic. Little Bojio, let's get married. Marriage? Bojio's eyes sparkled. Now, didn't they say that he wasn't of legal age? Chinamo pushed her hair aside with his fingers. We'll get married overseas first. Can I get married twice? Bojio smiled lightly. All right. Chinamo lowered his lids and planted a kiss on her hair. An old granny lived in the villa next door. When she came in, she saw this scene. She had chatted with the tall young man and asked him why he was standing here and not going in. He said he was waiting for his wife. She asked why they didn't go somewhere to wait. The young man said that his wife would not be able to see him. He wanted that person to be able to see him as soon as he arrived. Chapter 16:16. Old Master and rarely came to the Yin family's side anymore. But he left a butler. It wasn't hard to tell who gave the order. Because even the Bo family's house was cleaned and tidy every day. It was still the same as though no one had left. After Chinamo lost his memory, he had never returned. The butler who stayed had changed from a young man to a gentleman. When he saw Chinamo, the surprise in his eyes was obvious. Chinamo had asked him if anyone from the Bo family had returned. He had shook his head every time. But recently, for some reason, the surveillance footage hadn't been good. But the butler didn't think it was a big problem. The things inside hadn't been missing, so he hadn't mentioned it to Chinamo. Dinner was prepared by a Chinese chef that she had brought over. It was still Chinese food. It wasn't because of anything else but because a certain someone liked to eat it. Hence, before he came, Chinamo had asked the Yin family chef to fly over in advance. Old Masterin was happy. Before the chef left, he instructed several times to make more delicious food for little Gio. When Bojio was eating, she was lazy and didn't do anything out of line. She just kept sending text messages. The main target was Lin Feng. Give me a gift. Lin Feng still had a lot of documents to sign. The moment he tugged his collar, he saw the message and was slightly confused. What gift? Mine captain's gift. You have to give me a double, Bojio replied with chopsticks in her mouth. Lin Feng chuckled. Little Spade, you aren't of legal age yet, Why are you giving me a gift? We'll get married tomorrow. Bo Jio typed. Abroad. No matter how Lin Feng heard it, she sounded like she was showing off. He stood up instantly. Yun Hu, who was sitting beside him, pushed his gold-rimmed spectacles up the bridge of his nose nonchalantly. Lin Feng didn't know what he was thinking about. He glanced over. Hey Hu, why don't we go out and get married? Yun Hu's fingers paused. He glanced up, his voice slow. Get married? Lin Feng had blurted out that sentence. Now he felt that it wasn't realistic. It was all little Spade's fault. Cuff, I was just joking. How can we get married? Lin Feng sat down. His face was a little flushed. He was indeed too impulsive. No matter what, they were different from others. Recently, he had heard that the Yun family intended to let Hu Zi enter the government. If that was the case, marriage was indeed too unrealistic. After all, the environment was completely different and it would affect him. Unlike him, he didn't have so many considerations when doing business. But why was there a vague sense of disappointment in his heart? It was probably because of Yun Hu's reaction. Lin Feng told himself not to worry about personal gains and losses. Wasn't it just marriage? What was so good about it? He took a document and continued to sign it. The conference room returned to silence. Yun Hu didn't say anything. After signing a few documents, Lin Feng felt a tightness in his chest. He tugged at his tie, grabbed a cigarette and walked into the smoking room. He didn't know that behind him, Yun Hu had picked up his phone and sent 2 words to the person on the other end. Thanks. Chapter 16-17. Our flight is the day after tomorrow. Bo Jio arched a brow. Senior Lin doesn't know? I think so. Yun Hu glanced at the closed smoking room. He didn't respond at all when I asked for his information. Bo Jio thought to herself. He was still suffering, he didn't even know that his flight ticket had been booked. She smiled and returned to the previous chat, her eyes filled with mischief. Senior Lin, how's your counterattack plan? Very quickly a reply came. What's the rush? One day I'll sleep with Yun Hu until he's satisfied. Is that so? Bo Jio replied slowly, not believing him at all. I wish you success. I have a plan these 2 days. Lin Feng took a puff of his cigarette. He can forget about escaping. Regardless of whether they got married or not, this person could only be his. He would sleep with him the next day. Bo Jio reminded him. Don't be suppressed. Are you joking? Who do you think I am? His blind confidence made Bo Jio's gaze even more playful. She felt as though she was about to witness a good show. But before she could encourage Senior Lin, his phone was taken away. He glanced at her faintly. Madam Qin, it's dinner time now. I don't think I need to remind you to use your phone. With that, he picked up a piece of chicken and sent it to her lips. Bo Jio opened her mouth and ate it, smiling faintly. Brother Imo, since we are getting married, can we do that thing? What thing? Qin Imo asked slowly. His long and fair fingers finished peeling the prawn, dipping it into the seasoning before feeding it naturally. As Bo Jio ate, she leaned over. Her handsome face, the cleanness of a youngster, was mixed with a devilish air. Our wedding night. Bang. The butler, who was wearing white gloves, walked over with a bottle of red wine. He was about to refill their glasses when he heard Bo Jio's words, knocking his head against the wall. As a butler who had lived in the Yin family for so many years, his current level of Chinese was enough to understand the meaning of our wedding night. But didn't the Asians say that they were reserved? Why does Miss Jio seem to be the same as when she was young? She doesn't know how to be reserved at all. After all, young master was often pounced on by Miss Jio at that time. But the young master now, the butler turned his head to observe his young master's reaction. Unexpectedly, young master just wiped the corner of his mouth with a napkin, his expression noble and cold. Sure. The butler felt that at this moment he should have disappeared. He was the only one with a weaker tolerance. Bo Jio wanted to drink another glass of red wine. Unexpectedly, Qin Imo held her wrist and stood up. He lowered his eyes to look at her. Aren't we going to consummate our marriage? Now. Why did it feel like the Almighty was more anxious than her? Bo Jio glanced up. Qin Imo lowered his voice. Have you ever heard of the phrase, no waiting after the deadline? Bo Jio smiled and stood up. Now was the time. Anyway, when she saw him standing under the streetlight, her hands started to itch. The Almighty's temperament was so cold that it made people want to beat him up. Qin Imo glanced sideways at the person beside him. She looked as though she had stolen honey and was smiling wickedly. His thin lips lifted. She didn't even bother to hide her desire to take advantage of him. Since that was the case. Chapter 16:18. Bojio didn't know what Chinamo was thinking. She only heard him ask, "Shall we bathe together?" The devilish smile on his face deepened. With a unique laziness he replied, "Sure." After all, the Almighty in the bathroom was a feast for the eyes. The family's villa overseas had a huge bathtub and floor-to-ceiling windows on the other side. She could see the lights below. The bathtub was filled with fresh roses and white foam. Beside the bathtub was a bottle of red wine that had been chilled. "Do you still want to drink?" Chinamo tilted his head. Bojio smiled faintly. She placed one hand on the side of the bathtub. "No, it's a waste of time." Chinamo glanced at her but didn't move. With a swoosh she pushed him into the bathtub. After his suit was soaked, he looked more handsome and abstinent than ever before. Even though he looked cold, there was a hint of sexiness that made people want to lay their hands on him. Such sexiness coupled with Chinmo's face was indeed enough to make one's heart itch. Bojio smiled faintly. She lowered her lids and kissed the water droplets on his face. Chinamo arched a brow. He could feel her hands landing on the button of his shirt. He didn't stop her. Instead, he looked at her, his dark eyes a little heavy. Bojio noticed this. Her lips curved upwards as she kissed his neck. Then she moved upwards and kissed his ear. Chinmo's fingers moved. His back straightened and his gaze deepened. Bojio felt that the Almighty who was at her mercy was too tempting. It was true that beauty could fool people. It was also true that a beauty coming out of the bath was especially tempting. Especially now. His suit was wet and his black hair fell down. He didn't look down at all. Instead, he made her want to bite his neck. Bojio did it. Kisses were always pleasing, especially when he cooperated. To Bojio, sitting on someone's body and kissing him here and there was probably the best way to take advantage of him. It was a delightful feeling. But to Chinamo, this was far from enough. How could it be? He wanted to hug her fiercely. He wanted her to only have him in her eyes. This thought had never stopped. So, how could a mere kiss satisfy him? The electric curtains on the floor-to-ceiling windows had been pressed by someone. Bojio focused on the delicacy in her mouth. From a light kiss to a deep one, the tip of her tongue still carried the faint scent of red wine. He gently sucked, and the familiar numbness from her tailbone made her body tremble. He didn't know when, but he had become the leader. He reached out his hand, held the back of her head, and began to crazily attack the city. The water in the tub seemed hotter. Bojio's thoughts were burnt to a crisp. In the mirror he saw their reflections. Both his suit and Bojio's t-shirt were drenched. Black hair and silver hair mixed together. When his hands were on her waist, Bojio's mind was filled with snowflakes as his hand reached inside. Bojio felt numb, her eyes glazed over. Chapter 16:19. Faintly, the sounds around her gradually disappeared. At the start, she could still hear the wind outside, but after that, she couldn't hear anything except each other's beating hearts. Unknowingly, the t-shirt on her body had been soaked in the water. It floated on the surface of the water like a blooming, enchanting flower, looking extremely beautiful. His hand pressed against hers, as if he was intentionally guiding her to place her fingertips on his trousers. Even the breath beside her ear was hot. Their positions didn't change. She was still on top. But this made Bojio more passive. The water in the bathtub swayed and ripples formed. When his breath seeped in, Bojio felt her entire body go numb. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She bit down on her thin lips and even the corners of her eyes were slightly red. The water droplets from the ripples landed on her porcelain white collarbone. This made Chinmo's body tense to the extreme. Even his eyes were dyed red. Chinmo wanted to take it slow, but in the end, he couldn't help it. He held onto her waist and used a lot of strength. Bojio trembled. The numbness was like a storm, sweeping her entire body along with the water. It was hot everywhere. She wanted to move, but she couldn't use any strength in her arms and legs. It was so urgent and close. It made her whole body go numb. Bojio wanted to grab onto something. But his fingers interlocked and held it in his hands. Hugging the person she liked would probably cause her to sink. Little Bojio. His voice was deep as he called her name continuously. His strength increased, causing Bojio to sink deeper and deeper. She couldn't resist at all. Instead, the numbness made her want to get closer and tighter to him. She could see the sweat on his forehead and the tense side of his face. Once his abstinence was broken, it was a charming handsomeness. She liked this kind of beauty because only she could see him like this. It was a taboo bewitchment. It was as though she had dyed the high and mighty god with a tinge of darkness. The temperature of the entire bathroom was rising. The fog was rising everywhere. The water in the bathtub surged out again and again, spilling out of the bathtub. The rose petals stuck to her body, accentuating the Z tattoo on her waist, making it look devilishly beautiful. Bojio could only follow his movements, falling into a trance. Finally he stopped. Bojio's hands were weak and she wanted to push him away. He whispered into her ear, "You're not the one who wants to be on top, huh? Not this way." Bojio's breathing was in a mess. Chinamo kissed her neck. "Which method is it?" "I'll lead." Bojio's eyes lit up. Chinamo took the opportunity when she was in a daze to press down on her waist. "You're too weak. It's not fun. But your current state makes me want to destroy you." Bojio bit down on her lips as if that was the only way she could stop herself from making a sound. Bojio frowned, biting her lips even harder. He waved his finger over and his voice was low and coaxing. "Call me by my name and I'll let you go." Chapter 16:20. Chinmo's eyes widened. It was as though the only way to relieve the deep desire was to hug her tightly in his arms. The last thread broke when she lowered her eyes. Needless to say, those seductive black eyes. Chinamo turned his hand quickly. He didn't want to let her enjoy herself anymore. Instead, he pushed her against the edge of the bathtub. She couldn't hear any other sounds. There was only his panting and the sound of her name over and over again. When she came back to her senses, he had already carried her up and placed her on the bed. His voice was still deep. "You're right. We shouldn't stop." Compared to the previous 2 times, he didn't have to worry anymore. This time he seemed to be more unrestrained. He knew how to make a woman happy. He was like a demon who specialized in bewitching people. He tore apart the layer of elegance and nobility. Enough. Her breathing was hurried. She wanted him to slow down. But he pressed against the deepest part of her. "Is it really enough?" Bojio didn't say anything. After a heavy tremble, her fingertips gripped the pure white bedsheets beneath her. Her snow-white skin had a faint blush. No one came to disturb her. Hence, she didn't have to care about anything else. The sound from the European-style bed echoed in the entire bedroom. It didn't seem like it was going to stop. Bojio really underestimated the man's explosive power after enduring for a period of time. She couldn't resist at all. And after enduring for so long, Chinamo definitely wouldn't let go of the person in his arms. These few days, all the images he could imagine were put into action. It wasn't as simple as holding her in his arms and bullying her. He didn't use any protective measures. In the past, he was worried that he would hurt her. He didn't just use protective measures. He would even take a cold shower after he was done with her. But this time he didn't do anything. He didn't control himself. Instead, when she was in a daze again, he lowered his voice and said in her ear, "Give birth to a child that belongs to us, Mrs. Chin." Because of this sentence, Bojio's eyes focused again. There was an unprecedented light in her eyes. Okay. She probably decided to have a child. Hence that night. Chinamo didn't let go of Bojio. He didn't stop until she couldn't take it anymore. He carried her horizontally and entered the bathroom. Very gently. Just like before, when he lost his memory, he squatted beside the bathtub and cleaned the traces on her body. Chapter 16:21. The cleaning didn't take long. Men who had been in the army usually had good stamina. Moreover, Chinamo had come from the special forces. Hence, it didn't affect him much. He reached out and pulled the towel over, wrapping it around her body. Then he bent down and carried her out of the bathtub. She moved a little, feeling a little resistant. Chinamo lowered his lids and kissed the corner of her eye. His voice was still hoarse, but there was a pampering tone that wasn't present in front of others. "Stop fooling around, I'll take you to bed." The person in his arms relaxed her body. When she wrapped her arms around Chinmo's waist, she didn't forget to say, "Mine." "Mmh, yours." Chinamo ran his fingers through her hair. After he placed her on the bed, he couldn't help kissing her forehead. He probably wouldn't be able to find such a possessive person. At this moment, Bojio was still lazy. She was half asleep and didn't feel any difference in her body. Instead, the person she was hugging had a slightly cold skin, which was suitable for sleeping. When she woke up the next day, her back was sore. She wanted to lie on the sofa, not wanting to move at all. Why did she eat more than him when they were both eating the same food? Why was his stamina so much better than hers? Bojio's long legs were placed on the sofa. She supported her chin as she drank the milk. When she looked at Qin Mo, there was an obvious gloominess in her eyes. At the end of the day, she was lacking in stamina. If she really wanted to do anything to the Almighty, she would have to rely on some special methods. But this was her territory anyway. The Fifth Avenue was nearby. She would be able to get some things. After she recovered, she would go to the Black Brothers and ask for some special ones. She would use them all on the Almighty. When Bojio was halfway through her drink, her gaze landed on Qin Mo, who was helping her to blow the medicinal soup. Her gaze deepened. Qin Mo took a glance and knew what she was thinking. He used the spoon to touch her lips. Don't do anything bad these 2 days, understand? Do I still have the energy to do bad things in this state? Bojio took a sip. It was too bitter. She leaned over and touched his lips. What's that taste? Qin Mo arched a brow. It's bitter. Bojio leaned her head against his shoulder lazily. How long are we going to drink? Qin Mo lowered his lids to look at a certain someone who wanted to be naughty even after drinking medicine. After thinking for a moment, he drank the medicine, pinched her chin and kissed her. Bojio chuckled lightly. She savored the taste and smiled devilishly. Brother Mo, you're getting better. I realize you're getting more and more undisciplined, Qin Mo said as he wiped her thin lips with a napkin. Does your back still hurt? Bojio arched a brow. It hurts. That would probably make the Almighty feel guilty. Qin Mo stood up, adjusting his sleeves. I won't be carrying you to the wedding venue. Bojio. Qin Mo looked at her expression and suddenly laughed again. He lowered his lids. Is it really painful or fake? Forget about the pain, I just want to kiss you until your legs turn to jelly. Bojio narrowed her eyes. Qin Mo caressed her head. There is a difference between dreaming and dreaming. After saying that, he brought over another bowl of food. Bojio pursed her lips, feeling slightly depressed. There's more? Chapter 1622. Give birth? That was when Bojio remembered what she had promised him last night. She personally liked the little bean the most. It was just that she had never thought that one day she would have a child. Now that the Almighty had mentioned it, her eyes lit up. Drinking this is good for giving birth? Bojio didn't like red dates, but she was very cooperative now. Qin Mo looked at her and arched a brow. You seem very happy? Of course. Bojio didn't hide it at all. She kissed the side of his face. I like babies. Brother Mo, you have to work hard. Qin Mo smirked. How hard? Are you sure? Bojio's waist hurt from his smirk. She nestled in his arms and drank the red date tea in one gulp. It was wisest not to speak now. Qin Mo lowered his head and glanced at the person in his arms. He could faintly hear her voice. You can't drink that wine, it's not good for the baby. She sounded as though she was already pregnant. But it seemed like she really liked it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible for her to be smiling. She was reading a lot of things and every single one of them was related to children. She even became nonchalant when he asked her questions. Qin Mo's eyes deepened. He took her phone and placed it at the side. Why hadn't he thought of it before? Just the appearance of little Mo Bei was enough to divert her attention. If there was another child. Qin Mo suddenly regretted it. His voice was calm and emotionless. There's no need to rush. We can talk about it 2 years later. We have to let nature take its course. Is that so? Bojio smiled mischievously. Anyway, it shouldn't be difficult if she wanted to. It seemed like she still had to find something from the Black Brothers. After all, the person in front of her wasn't easy to sleep with. Yes. Qin Mo pinched her face. Don't think of any other tricks. Behave. Bojio arched a brow. I'm very obedient. I'm asking little Bei to attend our wedding. After all, her master has finally married her master's wife. Let her be the flower girl. Mistress? Qin Mo's voice deepened because of the title. The moment she caught sight of the handsome face in front of her, she immediately changed the topic. I'll see how I can get her a visa so she can come over with Almighty Yun and the rest. In the end, it was not an excuse. After all, it was not easy to get a visa for the Fifth Avenue. Of course, he had to contact them in advance. Since it was a wedding. How could he be complete without his good friends? About this point, Qin Mo felt the same way, so he didn't continue to correct her for calling him master's wife. It was when Bojio was sending a message to Yunhu. He also took out his phone and pressed his slender fingers on the screen. He took a picture of the invitation card for the wedding venue that the butler had prepared earlier. They were sent to William and Hoshino. When William received the message, he was still reminiscing about the times when he and Gio were young, but when he saw the invitation he was strangely unhappy. This devil was really ruthless. It was so early in the morning and he was already making her so unhappy. Chapter 16:23. The cat seemed to have noticed the vibration of the phone and meowed. Hoshino, on the other hand, looked at the content of the message and raised his brows. He could still see the green bamboo in the message and the gentleness of a bandit. He knew very well what Chinemo was thinking. However, he really didn't expect Z to get married one day. Those dusty emails in the online world were probably to confirm that she was still there. Now she was finally not alone. Hoshino couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. He was happy and empty at the same time. After all, she was his young lord. He raised his hand and took a sip of coffee. Just as he was about to reply, a hand suddenly reached out and took the phone from his hand. It was Yu Cixing. He seemed to have just gotten out of bed. His long hair was tied loosely behind him. He was wearing black pajamas and his half-exposed skin was very fair. His sharp handsomeness and evilness increased as he took the phone. Both of them were about the same height. Hoshino was at most 2 centimeters taller than Yu Cixing. But this had made Yu Cixing very unhappy in the past. Now he was unhappy about Hoshino's reaction. He pressed the phone screen and replied on his behalf. I wish you two a long life together. I will attend the wedding. Hoshino glanced at him. Don't reply randomly. What do you mean by randomly? Yu Cixing smiled. Even the corners of his lips were evil and he had the aura of a gangster. Our vice captain, don't tell me that you don't even dare to attend a wedding. Hoshino caressed the cat beside his hand. He didn't linger on this question and just reached his hand over. Yu Cixing narrowed his eyes and suddenly smiled. He placed the phone back in Hoshino's hand. I'll go with you and do some business. Your uncle is still eyeing you. Are you sure you want to leave at this time? Hoshino's voice was very calm. Yu Cixing's gaze deepened. He has been eyeing me for a long time. Yu Cixing paused for a moment. Don't worry, I won't ruin Z's wedding. After all, I hope that she will get married soon. That way you won't have to keep your promise. It's really annoying to provide clues for the Bo family for generations. Hoshino paused for a moment before replying softly, I volunteered to provide her with clues. Yu Cixing scoffed. So what? She still married someone else. Hoshino didn't say anything else and strolled into the room. Yu Cixing laughed and smashed the coffee cup on the table. When Hoshino came out again, what he saw was the man sitting on the sofa watching the TV lazily. There was a mess under his feet. He walked over and called someone over to pack up. Yu Cixing said lazily, you don't have to, just leave it like that. The man in black didn't know what to do. He looked at young Master Hoshino and then at his boss. Hoshino's voice was soft as he looked down at him. You want to attend the wedding like this? Yu Cixing glanced up and muttered, it's not that you don't want me to go. I didn't say that. Hoshino kept the things. The man in black noticed it too. The moment young Master Hoshino said that, the ruthless and cold aura on his master was finally gone. Chapter 16:24. On the other side, the night before in Jiang City, Lin Feng was a little depressed. He couldn't put his finger on it. Anyway, it was a social occasion. He just drank some wine casually. When he was dressed in a suit, he would always look especially handsome after drinking with a lazy sexiness. At the table, the other CEOs asked, Brother Lin, you're really young and influential. Lin Feng wasn't very drunk, he replied humbly, No, it's the people in the company. Brother Lin, how's your love life? Do you need me to introduce a girlfriend to you? The moment he finished his sentence, someone touched his shoulder. That person was enlightened. He seemed to have heard that this person from the Lin family had a different taste. Haha, look at me, I just like to be a matchmaker, I'm used to it. Let's drink. Haha, look at me. I just like to be a matchmaker. I've gotten used to it. But honestly speaking, at such an occasion, there would definitely be people coming in to accompany them. But to be honest, in this kind of occasion, there would definitely be people coming in to drink with them. After all, there were a lot of beauties coming in. Basically, they sat beside each other. But among so many people, their favorite seat was definitely beside Lin Feng. However, among so many people, their favorite spot was definitely beside Lin Feng. The beauty picked up the wine pot and filled his cup again. Her eyes seemed to be saying, such a handsome man, even if it's just business, I don't know who's sleeping with whom. This was the first time she had such a high-quality customer, of course she had to make good use of it. It was the first time she had such a high-quality customer. Of course she had to make good use of it. And she could tell that this handsome guy was hiding something. At this moment, it should be the best time to approach him. Indeed, Lin Feng wasn't so guarded today. The main thing was that he didn't understand why Yunhu didn't agree when he mentioned marriage. Although he understood. Damn it. He couldn't accept it at all. Lin Feng lowered his lids and finished another glass of wine. He reached out and pulled his collar, his fringe falling down as he lit his cigarette. It was really mesmerizing. The girl leaned closer to him. But for some reason Lin Feng took a step back. He seemed to be sober as he muttered to himself, "He doesn't like people touching me." The girl thought that Lin Feng was talking about his girlfriend. She didn't think it was a big deal. If he didn't let her accompany him today, she would have to accompany someone else. Hence, the girl hoped that Lin Feng could drink more. As it turned out, Lin Feng had indeed drunk a little too much. He was even a little shaky. When the dinner was almost over, the girl wanted to help him up. Swoosh. The door was pulled open. Everyone's body froze. After seeing the figure outside clearly, they all stood up. After all, the Yun family had brought Yunhu out for activities. Therefore, these people still recognized the young master of the Yun family. It was just that he didn't seem to be easy to get in touch with. After all, it was normal for people who stood in that position. Now that they saw him here, they were stunned for a moment, then they hurriedly stood up. But before they could greet each other. Chapter 1625. It was just a polite sentence. They understood what he meant. Mainly they knew that Boss Lin was different from others. However, he had never imagined that his partner would be young Master Yun. They had assumed that Lin Feng had a small celebrity as his mistress. After all, they liked this kind of lifestyle. Who would have thought that it would be like this? His other half was such a powerful person and he had come out personally to handle business. What was going on? This was great. Young Master Yun had come personally to catch him. Would they dare to not let him go? They were even afraid that young Master Yun would misunderstand and think that they wanted Boss Lin to do something out of line. They hurriedly thanked him. "If there's a chance in the future, we will be the host. Young Master Yun, you must give us face. We'll talk about it in the future." Yun, whose gaze was hard to read. "Thank you for taking care of him today. Everyone." Was he really thanking them or just pretending? It was probably because the voice was too familiar. When Lin Feng heard it, he glanced down instinctively. "Yunhu. Congratulations, our young Master Lin still knows who I am." Yun, whose voice was neither fast nor slow. However, Lin Feng could still hear the unhappiness in her voice. He hadn't even thrown a tantrum. Why did Huzi make the first move to gain the initiative? No, he couldn't leave. He had to have a good talk with him. Lin Feng tugged his collar. After leaving the room, he pressed Yunhu against the wall, his handsome face reeking of alcohol. "I'm very annoying, do you know that?" "Annoying?" Yunhu's gaze sank because of this word. He pushed him away and arched a brow. "What? Do you think I interrupted your good time?" Because of the alcohol, Lin Feng was tongue-tied. "What good time? Don't change the topic." Yunhu still wanted to say something. Just then someone walked out. It was the beauty sitting beside Lin Feng. She looked at Lin Feng with obvious reluctance. That reluctance pierced Yunhu's eyes. This made the possessiveness that he hadn't felt in a long time rise again. Without any hesitation, he stretched out his hand to stop the man who reeked of alcohol and planted a fierce kiss on his thin lips. His right hand exerted force. He didn't give the man any chance to resist. It seemed that only in this way could he calm down and listen to his explanation. Both of them were wearing suits and had the same slender figure. At this time, separated by the hotel's bamboo curtain, it gave people an indescribable sense of beauty. This kiss was seen by many people. The person who had sent the message to Yunhu thought, this time no one would dare to drag Lin Feng to such a place. Even if they were doing business, they had to consider where they should eat. After all, no one wanted to provoke the young master of the Yun family. Some of the merchants did understand and did not keep quiet after seeing it. The girl, on the other hand, paused for a moment, then her whole body stiffened, because she was the closest to the two people. Among them, the young master didn't look at her in a friendly manner. Especially after the kiss, he glanced over at her through the bamboo curtain as if to say that this guy was mine. Lin Feng seemed to have calmed down by the kiss. He didn't know why, but he started laughing. Then he raised his hand and covered his eyes. "I seem to have drunk too much." "You allowed others to get close to you because you drank too much?" Yunhu pressed his head. "Mamage?" Chapter 1626. Yun, who was about to ask what was bothering him. That person immediately straightened his back and seemed to be very serious. In reality, he was still drunk. He looked at him with dark eyes. Why did you hesitate when I said I wanted to marry you? Marriage? The surrounding people were all shocked. Only Yun, who looked at his tipsy face and asked, when did I hesitate? Can't I tell if you hesitated or not? Lin Feng leaned there and lit a cigarette, probably to sober himself up. It was really annoying. Yun, who looked at him and took the cigarette from his fingers. His gaze landed. So you are annoyed because you think I hesitated? What do you mean I think at that time? Don't think that he forgot his attitude just because he was drunk. Unfortunately, Lin Feng didn't finish his sentence. Yun, who interrupted him, his voice unhurried. I was replying to Z's message at the time. Also, I had already bought a plane ticket overseas for you to get married overseas. That day you gave me your household register and information. Did you forget about it? Lin Feng stilled, his handsome face a little dazed. Isn't that for the company's business expansion? Household register and passport for business expansion? Yun, who arched a brow. Lin Feng grabbed his hair. King embarrassing. There was no one nearby, right? How could there be no one? Basically, everyone in the business circle was here. But because this was young Master Yun's melon, no one dared to interfere. However, the topic of marriage really shocked them. Those two weren't just playing around. Were they getting married? With Boss Lin's conditions, if the other party was a businessman and said he was serious, they might believe him. But he was young Master Yun. Ever since the Lin family declined. Even if young Master Yun wanted to play around with Boss Lin, he wouldn't have to worry. After all, the Yun family was in power now. But marriage? Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. Lin Feng sensed their gazes and sobered up. Basically, he understood what a pain in the ass he had gotten himself into. Even he didn't know why, but whenever Yun Hu was involved, he would be especially concerned. Or rather, he felt insecure. Anyway, he couldn't explain it. He felt that they just knew each other for a long time. The more Lin Feng socialized, the more he thought about it. He knew very well what men's meals were like every day. In the future, when that person's status reached a certain level, there would be many people who would think of ways to send people to him. Even if it wasn't a girl, she could still give it to a boy. The rules after adulthood were basically the same. Once or twice he might not be tempted. But after that? He had always liked men, right? Lin Feng felt annoyed just thinking about this. She wasn't afraid that they couldn't be together anymore. It would be better to say that he was afraid. When the time came, even if he discovered that the other party had ulterior motives, he would not want to let go. If he let go, he would still be envious and disgusted. But if they were just brothers, there wouldn't be any of this. He didn't want to become that kind of person begging for love all the time. But at the same time, Lin Feng truly understood one thing. It was getting harder and harder for him to leave such a person. She even had the thought of marrying this person. He had really gone crazy. That was why he cared about that person's reaction at that time. Chapter 1627. I'm asking you a question. Do you need a household register and passport to expand your business? Yun Hu repeated his words. Lin Feng coughed lightly. When he came back to his senses, he stuttered, Did you just say you're going overseas to get married? MMH. Yun Hu glanced over. Lin Feng tugged his collar again, not looking at him. Are we really getting married? Are you shy, almighty Lin Feng? In the past, whenever Yun Hu teased Lin Feng, he would use the word almighty when they were playing games. Lin Feng glanced up. When have I ever been shy? I was just surprised. You should have told me in advance that you're getting married in such a hurry. I could have gotten my secretary to prepare a set of clothes or something, and I've already prepared everything for you. Yun Hu smiled faintly. You just need to tell the priest that you are willing when he asks you. Lin Feng's face was burning. Yun Hu asked again, Are you sober? I woke up a long time ago. You came in so suddenly. Those who don't know might think someone owes you money. Lin Feng had been rather handsome during the meal, but the moment he was in front of Yun Hu, he naturally became talkative. Yun Hu smiled leisurely, reaching out to grab his wrist, his voice calm. Since you're sober, let's talk about how you almost cheated on me just now. Cheated? CK. That was a huge accusation. When did he cheat? He just drank a little too much. Lin Feng opened his mouth, wanting to say something. But when Yun Hu passed by the beauty standing there, he paused slightly. Do you need to bid farewell to your lover? Lin Feng didn't need to say anything. Had he really been caught in the act? He hadn't done anything. However, Lin Feng also knew that someone seemed to be very close to him just now. Before he left, Yun Hu had said that he could socialize but not let anyone touch him. That terrifying possessiveness. Why hadn't he noticed it in the past? After Yun Hu brought him away, the businessmen inside walked out. Only then did the merchants who were standing inside walk out. Apart from feeling incredulous, they couldn't believe it. Then, another figure walked over with a beautiful woman in his arms. His smile was charming. Everyone can see it now. Young Master Yun doesn't seem to like his wife coming to this kind of place. It's a social event after all. Go to more formal places in the future. Everyone. As young Master Li who talks business here every day, is it appropriate for you to say this? After returning to the car, Yun Hu tossed the jacket in his hand to the side. It was Lin Feng's jacket. He was so drunk that he didn't even know to wear his suit jacket. That was what Yun Hu was most concerned about. Of course, he was also touched by someone else. Yun Hu was afraid of one thing. Because this person had always liked girls. It wasn't easy for him to accept him to start in this way. If there really was a girl who deliberately seduced him and lured him away. After he tried it, he still felt that girls were better. What should he do? Therefore, he really didn't want him to come to such a place. Chapter 16:28. How is that possible? What nonsense are you talking about? Lin Feng leaned back, the back of his ears burning. You don't have to be in such a position. Yun Hu didn't move. You were closer to someone just now. Are they very close? Lin Feng's eyes flickered, then he pushed her away and the two of them switched places. I'm serious, I was just annoyed just now, but I'm not annoyed now. If someone gets closer to me, I'll definitely push them away. Besides, I've already done that with you, so why would I still be interested in women? What before? They were both pressed against the car, but Yun Hu's aura had changed, he was much more relaxed. Lin Feng replied, That a good time. Yun Hu arched a brow. Can I understand that no matter what happens in the future, you won't touch anyone else? That's for sure. Lin Feng glanced at him, frowning. Are you really worried that I'll be interested in someone else? Mitch. The unexpected answer made Lin Feng pause for a moment. Yun Hu pressed the back of his head, his thin lips landing on the corner of his mouth. He bit down heavily, his voice even lowering. You don't seem to have realized how many rotten peach blossoms there are around you. Regardless of whether it's a man or a woman, they always challenge my bottom line. There's still a love letter from your first love in the drawer. Lin Feng opened his mouth. I forgot to throw it away. Didn't you snatch my first love away? Besides, I didn't even fall in love with her and you guys got together. It's a little unfair. Indeed, logically speaking, I shouldn't be like this. I've always felt that people who struggle with their past aren't generous, but when it's you, I can't be generous at all. Yun Hu looked at him. I don't like to open your drawer and see things related to the girl who has a crush on you. Lin Feng was slightly surprised because of Yun Hu's serious expression. He had never expected Yun Hu to feel uneasy. He had always thought that he was the only one who felt uneasy. But now, it seemed like if he really liked someone, would there be times when he would worry about his gains and losses? I'll throw it away. At this point, Lin Feng changed the topic. Shouldn't you remind Liu not to always send people to your side? Do you really think I'm dead? Yun Hu paused and suddenly laughed. He wouldn't dare. He gave it to me in the past. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes. He had an expression that said, Don't think that I don't know. It was very handsome. Yun Hu replied slowly, That was a long time ago. When you didn't agree to it, he gave it to me once and I smashed his shop. Lin Feng. Indeed, he had nothing to say. Compare my attitude to the person who came knocking on my door and look at you. Yun Hu straightened his back and tidied his collar. Don't you feel ashamed? Lin Feng felt that this direction wasn't quite right. When she came back to her senses, she was kissed again. It's so unsafe. Hurry up and follow me overseas to get a stamp. This was Yun Hu's last sentence as his breath faded. Overseas, Fifth Avenue. William, an international friend, had always thought that being the best man was challenging enough. He didn't expect that devil Chinamo to let him run the field. Did he look like a worker? He was the son of a world-class director. Chapter 16:29. It was useless to say okay. He still had to find him. At this time he had to show off his wealth in front of the Eastern Devil. Hence, William invited a lot of people out that day. Basically, there were people from all professions just to show off in front of Chinamo. One of them felt bored. Is there anything? If there's nothing, I'll go back first. You'll be playing games when you go back. What's so good about facing the computer? William lowered his voice. Just you wait. That devil will be here soon. That person was indeed interested in playing games, but he wasn't interested in Asians at all. William's description of him was a little too exaggerated. How could Asians be so powerful? In the game they were often abused by him. Not to mention in real life. He had already invested a lot of money in the gaming club under the company. He was preparing to enter some competitions. Of course he didn't have time to waste here. Come and find me when Asians are as tall as me. That person stood up and was about to leave. The door was pushed open. It was Chin Mo. He wasn't wearing a suit, just a simple shirt and trousers, but his noble aura made the person opposite him pause. Sometimes, to see if a person had status, other than the watch, there was another thing that could show it. That was the buttons on his cuffs. But this time, the cufflinks Chin Mo wore were given to him by Bojio. In some ways, Bojio had always been more luxurious than Chin Mo. It was enough to show the value of the cufflinks. Putting aside the amount of money. Many people wanted to get their hands on it, but it had already been bought by someone else in an auction. Businessmen wanted this as an embellishment. Abbott was one of them. When he caught sight of Chin Mo's right sleeve, his gaze shifted and he glanced over slowly. William, on the other hand, was panicking. What should he do? The devil must have heard what he said. Based on the devil's personality, he would definitely seek revenge for this matter. He hadn't forgotten the devil's background. Obviously, Abbott didn't realize what was wrong with him. He was still very polite in front of others. He smiled lightly. Are you the Asian friend William knows? Chin Mo lifted his lids casually, replying indifferently, MMH. This allowed Abbott to quickly define him. On the surface he seemed to have a strong aura, but in fact he was like most of the Easterners he knew. He was not good with words and did not know how to communicate with others. Previously, several universities had rejected many Asians because of this incident. He admitted that the Easterners were very strong in terms of specialization, but in other aspects they were very average. To prevent William from deifying this person in front of him in the future, he might as well break it now. Moreover, he was very interested in the cufflinks on the man's sleeves. Speaking of which, it was strange that this cufflink had fallen into the hands of an Asian. Abbott's golden eyes smiled with some arrogance. I heard that you want William to help you find a wedding venue? Help. Chin Mo pondered the word. The back of William's neck stiffened. Alright, he had received money before. Abbott continued, some venues can only be visited by locals, but you can find them with William's connections, but it's not free, sir. Chin Mo arched a brow. Chapter 1630. William wanted to ask if he could keep his mouth shut. Chin Mo had already opened his mouth. What's the compromise? It's not good to ask for payment directly. I've been playing games recently. I heard from William that you've played games before. Let's have a competition. If you win, we'll help you with the venue and other things. After saying that, Abbott smiled. If you lose, I'll take this cufflink on your sleeve as the reward. How about it? Chin Mo glanced at his cufflink, still noble. Although I've already paid you, I don't like it when others have designs on my things. What game? Hero, how about it? Abbott hadn't expected him to have already paid him, but since the other party had agreed, it would be good to proceed according to the script he had written. Chin Mo raised his brows slowly. Hero? That's right, Hero. You should know how to play it. After all, it's such a popular game. Abbott didn't hear the hidden meaning behind Chin Mo's words. Chin Mo tugged at his collar, his emotions calm. I know how to play. There's no computer here and the server is more complicated than the mobile game. Let's play the mobile game faster. Abbott took out his phone. Chin Mo had already uninstalled the game when he arrived. He glanced up at William. Give me a phone with a game. When Abbott heard this, he was even more convinced that the person in front of him, whom William called a devil, was more or less exaggerated. At least in terms of gaming he should be average. Otherwise, it would be impossible for there to be no heroes on his phone. William, who was familiar with Chin Mo, wanted to remind his friend that the almighty devil was scary like this. My phone can only have my account. William was still struggling. Chin Mo glanced at him. Then we'll use your account. I just started playing. I don't have anything. To be honest, William was really bad at games and he didn't have much time to play games. With so many beauties accompanying him, who would want to play games, right? Anyway, he didn't play games because he was bad. Qin Mo's voice was calm. As long as you have a role. What else could William say? He pushed the phone forward. He really couldn't afford to offend the almighty devil. Ebert reached out and patted his back. Hey, seriously, raise your head. William, shut up. What do you know? Ebert was still laughing. That account of yours doesn't have anything, right? You're not good at it usually. Just watch how I beat him. William replied, I'm not good at it. Devil, torture him. Albert didn't know what was going on, so he first logged in. He was good friends with William, so it was convenient for him to invite William over. Qin Mo glanced at William's account. There wasn't anything. Fortunately, there was an assassin he could use. Albert was still very gentlemanly. Do you want to change numbers? There's no need. Qin Mo's long fingers moved back and forth, adjusting the settings. Come on. At this moment, a figure walked in. Her silver hair matched her black t-shirt, and her skin was the fair skin of a vampire noble. Her lips curled into a smile. I found you. William opened his mouth. 9? MMH? Bo Jio walked past him, glancing at his hands. Game. Chapter 1631. Competing with Brother Mo in gaming? Bo Jio arched a brow when she heard the news, a devilish smile on her face. This laugh really brought out the shadows of William's childhood. Every time Jio acted like this, someone was going to be in trouble. Albert didn't understand what was going on. Just then, the silver-haired pretty youngster walked towards him and patted his shoulder. Excuse him? Albert was confused. What did she mean? Brother, I'm impressed. Bo Jio smiled faintly, turning towards the people on the other side. Isn't your friend good at gaming? The people on William's side laughed. Of course, Albert is half a professional gamer. Bo Jio's eyes lit up. Do you want to bet on who will win? Are you sure? I'll bet on Albert. MMH, I'm sure. It was time to earn some extra money. If Bo Jio had a silver-white tail behind her, it would definitely be wagging. Her thoughts were clear in his eyes. He didn't stop her. Daily entertainment could make her more innocent. After all, her rebellious period was rather long. Albert said, My friend, you should bet less. I'm afraid you'll lose too much. Bo Jio smiled faintly. The person on the other side introduced, Albert is really knowledgeable about gaming and has been investing in it recently. His team is going to participate in the international competition soon. You really shouldn't play with him. Bo Jio replied nonchalantly, Let's play first, we'll talk after. She was in a hurry to collect the money. William shifted over. Can you really play? Aha. Bo Jio asked, How rich is he? William took a moment. He's very rich, he wants the devil's button. It would have been fine if he hadn't mentioned the button, but the moment William did, Bo Jio glanced over and said slowly, Then I'll bet more money. William thought. You look like you're trying to bankrupt the other party. Ebert didn't seem bothered, his fingers moving slightly as he said to Qin Mo, Why don't I give you a minute and let you get your equipment first? After all, it's gambling now and your friend seems to have high hopes for you. Lover? Qin Mo replied with 2 words. Abbott didn't understand. Ha. That's my lover, Qin Mo replied calmly. Ebert paused for a moment. Didn't they say that Asians were more reserved? Where were they reserved? Hey Albert, you can't just be in a daze. A voice came from the side. We all bet on you. Albert confidently chose the character he was best at. Coming right up. Winning was a piece of cake for him. The other side had chosen a squishy assassin. Against a support tank like him, they would definitely lose. Friend, you really don't understand this game at all. It's not the assassin style anymore. If it's a 1v1, it still depends on the tank. Albert slid his fingers. But don't worry. Since you're William's friend, I'll go easy on you. As Albert spoke, he controlled his character to rush out. There are no big screens here. The men crowded around Albert, watching. Bo Jio took out a small notebook. Qin Mo multitasked, glancing up at her. What are you doing? Chapter 1632. William. Have you thought it through? Was the devil good at gaming? William was a terrible gamer. He didn't pay attention to professional competitions and was far away from him. Hence, he didn't know that Qin Mo was a professional gamer. Albert's men were excited to see how he would torture the opponent. Hence, they didn't notice the commotion. Albert had been clearing the soldiers for a long time and had started to attack the tower, but he didn't see anyone on the map. Was the opponent so afraid that he didn't dare to come? William, ask your friend to come out. If he doesn't come out, how are we going to fight? The person on the other side laughed. Before he could finish his sentence, Albert suddenly paused beside them. Following that, a crisp sound effect rang in his ears. First blood. First blood? Albert killed someone? They lowered their lids and looked at the screen. Their eyes froze and they opened their mouths in disbelief. Albert, how did you die? Albert hadn't expected this either. All he did was fill in a line of minions. He had been cut off from the back. That person, how did he appear so quickly? Besides, he was a support tank. If it was a 1v1, it was impossible for a tank to lose to an assassin. The other party had been low on HP. If he had been any closer, the other party would have been dead. I didn't notice. Albert ignored the part that had dazzled him and caused him to miss out on his skills. Wait a moment. Albert decided not to waste any more time. He would head straight to the other party's territory to find him. Thus, the resurrected Ebert walked towards the river without a second thought. With the mist as a cover, the other party wouldn't be able to see where he was. But that was just Albert's idea. Before he could cross the river, the vision that Chinemo had set up in the jungle was effective. Abbott, on the other hand, sensed the danger and wondered if he should retreat. But the silver figure beside him was one step faster. It lifted him up and hit him with a big move. Albert was still in a daze. Why was the damage so high? Wasn't the other party using William's account? William's account shouldn't have any damage. Wait a minute, finances. How could the other party's finances be so much higher than his? Albert wanted to retreat. However, he realized that Chinemo seemed to be able to predict every step he took. Even his landing spot was grasped clearly by Chinemo very soon. The music started playing again. Albert looked at himself lying in the game, and then at the silver-white figure who had recovered half of his HP. His eyes began to waver. The expression of the person standing next to him also changed. Albert, you again? What's the hurry? I'm a late-game hero. Abbott blushed. He lifted his head and looked at Chinemo, who was moving his fingers casually. Once I develop, it will be different. At this moment, Chinemo placed his phone to the side and stuffed a hand into his pocket. He said calmly, I'll wait for you to clear the troops first. If you continue fighting, your home will be gone. Albert paused. This time he realized that the last defense tower on his path was gone. This guy, he's been cutting off the line of soldiers all along. No need. Ebert gritted his teeth. Fight however you want. Is that so? Chinemo arched a brow, reaching for his phone again. Chapter 1633. So arrogant? Albert's eyes darkened. This was his territory, he thought. If he wanted to forcefully demolish it, he would let him die here. After Albert recovered his mana, he released a skill wanting to kill Chinemo. At this moment, even if their finances were much worse, he would still have an advantage with the attack of the city crystal. But what he didn't expect was that he would continue to deal so much damage. Nothing happened to the other party. Albert was stunned. He saw that the silver-white figure was glowing with a golden light, and his eyes were wavering. It was a golden body. When did this guy change his equipment? Albert was speechless. Without any skills, he was thrown into the air. That person's movements dazzled him. He wasn't able to react at all. Albert's hands were numb. He watched helplessly as that person tortured him to death in the spring. Was this guy a monster? His hand speed and movements made Albert feel as though he was being strangled. Chinemo just stood there as though he was saying, if I can fight as I want, you don't have to fight anymore. Albert's face turned ashen. But deep down it was still there. After the city was destroyed, his face burned. Under his friend's disbelieving gaze, he said in a low voice, I lost. I will try my best for the venue. With that, he wanted to leave with his people. Bojio turned, her evil smile didn't diminish. Sirs, please give me the bet first. They didn't have so much cash on them. The person flipped the laptop in his hands. His lips were still curved. You can transfer money online. Everyone. Why did he even think of this? William, where exactly did you get to know these two Asians? As for why William called the elegant man the Great Devil, they had basically seen it for themselves. He looked nonchalant, but when he fought, it sent chills down their spines. He was willing to lose the bet, but the amount was a little big. Albert still wanted to say something. But before he could speak, someone laughed beside his ear. I heard that you're very interested in the button I gave to my fiancée. People usually attract trouble when they're interested in something that doesn't belong to them. Albert, your uncle is much better than you. Otherwise, your grandfather wouldn't have hesitated to give his inheritance to someone else. Albert froze when he heard that. He looked at the androgynous face in front of him, as if it had been kissed by God. He felt that although this person had bright eyes and white teeth when she smiled, there was a dark feeling about her, like the vampire aristocrats in the movies who could see through all your secrets. Who are you? How could you? You know about the internal affairs of their family? Bojo brushed past him. There's nothing I don't know here. Bullying my little Princess Emo? You really deserve a beating. William was aware that Bojo was her husband's bodyguard. He could tell from the side that Abbott had chosen to provoke the devil. He had provoked that person once when he was young. He was beaten up by Gio to the point where he started to doubt his life. It was better not to mention that experience. After all, Bojo was pure and flawless in front of Chin Emo. For example, she was still smiling faintly, as though she wasn't the one who had said those harsh words. Brother Emo, look, there are more betrothal gifts. Chapter 1634. 11:30 p.m. Jiang City International Airport. Ever since Lin Feng and Yun Hu retired, the members of the Supreme Alliance had never been so united. This time everyone was here. Even Yin Wuyao, who went out to relax, was dressed in a suit. These people were used to wearing their uniforms. After changing into suits, they always wanted to pull their collars. The youngest among them was Mo Bei. She was carrying a school bag and wearing a cap. Her small face was expressionless. No matter how Coco teased her, her emotions didn't change. Coco was helpless. Little Bei doesn't have any reaction. Who said she didn't have any reaction? Feng Yi was the leader. He smiled. Haven't we been studying how to send the flowers? Coco didn't listen and went to tease her again. At this moment, Mo Bei looked down. Because she was short, she looked really small. But her aura had gradually grown. Don't disturb me, I'm looking at the process. Coco laughed and turned to pull Feng Shang. Look, Little Bei is angry, she is angry. Feng Shang didn't want to know this guy. The Supreme Alliance seemed to be the same as before. When they were together, there was never an awkward silence. Even if Lin Feng was dressed like a dog now, he would still be together with them. There were times when Feng Yi looked at these people and would often think, could they play another match? Just one match would be enough. Later on he didn't think so. It was because Lin Feng and Yun Hu had retired. He thought of many ways in which he would send them away one day. The only thing he didn't think of was because of some people's questioning. It was good now. It was all for the team to digest. In the future they would be able to meet often. Young Master Qin probably meant to hide it completely. Indeed, it was good to live a life without being disturbed in the future. Marriage? Such a thing. Feng Yi had never thought about it. They were all destined to be alone. But fortunately the Supreme Alliance still had Little Guy. Feng Yi liked to call him Obey Little Guy. It was like this throughout the journey. There wasn't a moment of boredom. Until after they alighted from the plane. Lin Feng asked him, what does a groom usually do? The top manager, Fox Feng, paused. I'm not married, thank you. Coco didn't stand on ceremony. Yun Hu should be the one thinking about this, you don't have to think about it. F***CK, what do you mean? Lin Feng pulled off his tie, looking very handsome. You want to fight one-on-one? Afraid of you? Come on. Feng Yi separated the two of them. Mind your image, this is overseas. Master sent me the address. Mo Bei said, it seems to be this location. He asked us to go there directly. Lin Feng glanced over. Who found this place? That doesn't seem like the captain's style. Wasn't Little Spade the one who proposed? Little Spade must be the one who asked for it. Coco's lips curved upwards. Didn't Captain say that he's marrying into the family? Lin Feng, the only person who can make eating rice sound so fresh and refined is the captain. Let's go. Yun Hu just wanted this person to belong to him legally as soon as possible. 5th Avenue. Private villa area further up the mountain, there was a very small church. Although the church was small, it was beautifully decorated. There were even some vines wrapped around the walls, decorated with white roses. It was filled with black and red roses. Some people said that this was the private church of the nobles in the past. Some people said that the vampire count used to live here. Now the surroundings were as beautiful as a painting. Chapter 1635. But the groom, Qin Emo, raised his eyebrows and said slowly, Are you sure I want to dress like this? Hoshino smiled faintly, as gentle as jade, but he seemed to be watching a good show. Joe's idea. You don't like to cosplay as a character in the game? Chinamo didn't bother about this sentence. Instead, he looked past him and landed his gaze on Yusishin. His voice was calm. Did you bring your family? Hoshino paused for a moment. Chinamo stood up and looked down at his white shirt. Character in the game? Should he be glad that he didn't hang a gourd on his neck? Yusishin swirled his wine glass. It's good enough that you didn't dress as a girl. Young Master Chin, you should think about it. You are marrying Z. Remember to look after her in the future. If there are any problems, you can solve it internally. Chinamo glanced sideways and tidied his sleeves. His nobility didn't change at all. You don't feel safe. It seems like there isn't any progress. Before reminding me, find the reason why you are still single. Yusishin narrowed his eyes and didn't say anything. So what if he was married? That promise. Yusishin shifted his gaze back to Hoshino. His eyes became deeper and deeper. As one of the groomsmen, William was in charge of receiving them. He was controlling the scene outside. Behind him was a crazy Russian man who had been chasing him recently. That's right, it was a man. William was going crazy. Was he blind? He was so straight. He even gave him flowers. What the hell? After William chased him away, he hugged a blonde beauty and said melancholically, "The person I liked since young is getting married and I have to be the groomsman." The blonde beauty took it as a joke. Just then a person with long black hair walked over. Looking at her back view, it was truly magnificent. Especially her height, which William liked. An Asian beauty. William's eyes lit up. He flipped his blonde hair and leaned over, thinking that he was handsome. This is beautiful. He didn't finish the word person. The person in front of him glanced down. There was a sharpness in his eyes. The coldness caused William's back to stiffen. Was this a guy? Why was there such a good-looking guy? Yusishin laughed, full of bloodlust. Try saying the last word, let's see if I will cripple you. William? Wait a minute, the people here are all Gio's friends, right? Gio, where did you get to know so many dangerous people? His gaze could really kill someone. Yusishin watched as William trembled. He scoffed and walked into the auditorium. The person who walked out from inside had a black veil draped over her head. She seemed to remind him, "XN, this is Fifth Avenue. What's the meaning of speaking so harshly to my childhood friend?" Yusishin glanced up. Did you receive the gift? Information system. The person standing in the light smiled. Such a grand gesture. Something feels off. Yusishin raised his eyebrows. What can be wrong? For example, you want to ask me for her. Bojo walked out, her black veil swaying in the wind, gliding past the side of her face. She stood in front of the pure white church, reminding people of Lilith who lived in hell. She was like a bloodlust, a witch, a devilish beauty. Chapter 1636. Bojo smiled. I have to wait until someone can take him away. Based on Hoshino's intentions, I don't want your information system. He can leave or come back anytime he wants. But honestly, my Hoshino isn't someone who can let anyone do whatever they want. Or does our young master Yusishin want to be the one who is pampered? Yusishin choked for a moment. His handsome face darkened and a dark aura surged in his eyes. Bojo took a step forward. Her aura was still there. The black veil made her beautiful beyond compare. You really seem to be pampered. Yusishin gritted his teeth but didn't say anything. Be your best man. Maybe I'll let Hoshino go if I'm happy. Of course, Bojo said this intentionally. In fact, even if Yusishin didn't mention it, Bojo had already planned to tell Hoshino about the agreement today. Outside the church, William watched a group of people walk over. Albert was standing beside him. Ever since Chinamo won the last time, Albert basically provided everything related to the church. After all, he couldn't understand that guy's background. Now there were so many people here. The two foreigners were confused. This church isn't bad. Coco commented. When we get married, we can hold our wedding here. Rao Rong added, that's a little difficult. Forget about people who don't even have a girlfriend. Coco. You make it sound like you have one. Come, take a tourist photo for me, Lin Feng said. Mo Bei carried her school bag. Her small figure stood there helplessly. Why did people who came to get married still have the mood to take tourist photos? William, who was standing there, felt even more helpless. After all, these people were dressed like normal people. They should be guests who came to attend the wedding. But tourist photos. What was going on? Were they bullying him because he didn't understand Chinese? William was hesitating if he should go forward to greet them. Feng Yi walked over, exuding the aura of a businessman. "Excuse me, are you Mr. William? We are here to attend the wedding." William nodded. I am. It wasn't easy to find a normal person. He had to cherish it. "What about them?" Fengyi asked again. He saw that Mo Bei, who was standing next to him, had already raised her head. Her eyes landed on a spot. It was Bo Jiao, dressed in a black veil and holding a dark red rose in her hands. She looked like she was in a manga. The moment she walked out, a black warbler flew up behind her, and large clumps of black feathers fell. On top of her silver hair, there was a black diamond crown, evil and luxurious. At that moment, only then did people realize that this person was really going to get married. It was just that the wedding dress was different, and the accessories were also different. It was as if it had come to the demon world and met its beautiful master. "Master." Mo Bei walked over. Her small figure had no emotions on her face. She reached out and helped Bo Jiao to lift the gauze. She was carrying a school bag on her back. Bo Jiao smiled. She reached out and caressed Mo Bei's head. "You're here?" Mo Bei grunted and stood there obediently. This was the scene Qin Mo saw when he came out. He narrowed his deep eyes and heard a sudden F*** from the other side. Chapter 1637. Lin Feng was really stunned. His eyes didn't even move away from her. The others turned towards Qin Mo as well. Dressed in a snow-white robe, he stood upright, his wide sleeves fluttering in the wind. He exuded a strong sense of asceticism and a scholarly aura, making him look like a prince from ancient times. Many good-looking people weren't suited to wear this white robe. But Qin Mo seemed to have the aura of a prince. Even though it was a swordsman's robe, it made him look cold. Since he was cosplaying a game character, his hairstyle had been adjusted. His black hair was slightly curled and fell on top of his eyes, giving him an inexplicable air of a ruffian. Even though Panda was a support player, his favorite character was the assassin. His eyes lit up. "It's so similar, Captain. This is the closest cosplay I've ever seen. He looks so handsome even without the wig. If it was posted on the public account, many people would go crazy." Why did Captain think of cosplaying his own character? That wasn't right. It wasn't his idea. It was Little Spade's. It was a great idea. Captain was still frowning slightly. It was obvious how much he was against it. "Don't take it," Qin Mo said casually. Ebert didn't understand why. Honestly, when he had first seen him walk out, he had thought he was looking at a character from the game. Asians were really magical. They could change their aura just by changing their clothes. Bo Jiao's eyes curved. She had been wearing a black veil, but now she looked more like a witch waiting for the youngster in white to fall into her trap. Even the mole at the corner of her eyes seemed to be glistening. Her lips curved upwards, looking beautiful and devilish. Qin Mo's gaze landed on her, and there was a deep look in her eyes. "Happy." He walked over, his voice faint. Bo Jiao's smile deepened. "Brother Mo, this suit suits you really well." It made her want to pounce on him. Qin Mo arched a brow, not saying a word. He freed one hand and pinched her face, hinting for her to stop causing trouble. "Brother Mo, let's go. Beauty Lin is too eager to get married. We can't waste time like this." "Lin Feng. You're the one I hate marrying, right? F***ck, did I come here to be shot? Let's go." Yun Hu walked over and held his hand. His side profile was handsome and he gradually exuded a manly aura. They were both dressed in suits, but there were two of them, one in black and one in white. "Let's go into the church." Inexplicably, Lin Feng's heartbeat quickened by half a beat. His face was full of aggression, but in reality, even his ears were red. "Let's go." A Lamborghini was parked outside the church. It was just that the distance was a little far. No one noticed the commotion here. Only Little Black knew that someone was approaching it. As a wedding car, it had to have some reaction. However, he didn't expect that the voice that slowly sounded out would make the car stop. "I'm not sure what kind of password our Lord Jiao would change, but it's definitely something like a confession." Chapter 1638. Little Blackie's automatic recognition function was about to go haywire. How was that possible? How could that be its owner? There could only be one owner. But the system told it that this person was also its owner? The electronic network wasn't stable. Was it or wasn't it? Because of the man in the priest's robe, the navigation screen in the Lamborghini started to jump. In the church, Everything that needed to be prepared had been prepared. The door was opened and light shone in. Crimson roses were scattered all over the floor. Little Mo Bay changed her clothes and didn't carry her little school bag anymore. She wore a white tang suit and held a bouquet of flowers in her hands. She followed behind Bojio. She was very small, but because of her cold aura she looked very cute. As for Bojio, when the black veil on her rose, the back of the veil dragged on the ground. It meandered but didn't seem heavy at all. Perhaps only someone like Bojio could wear a black British veil dress with such an effect. It was beautiful and full of charm. The tear mole at the corner of her eyes added to the evilness. Regardless of whether it was the Supreme Alliance or William and the others, they all sat on the long bench as the family members. They didn't inform their family about this wedding and the planning of everything. Chinamo handed it over to Grandfather Butler. Grandfather Butler was still wearing a tuxedo. But today there was an additional tray on his white gloves. There were 2 rings on the tray, both inlaid with black diamonds. And at the top of the church, the priest was already standing. He was holding the Bible in his hands. But he gave off a lazy and elegant aura. Of course, at this moment, no one would notice the priest. As for this priest, he was also found by Albert. To him, it couldn't be any more ordinary. It was also far away. He didn't stand at the side. When the priest started to read the oath, many white pigeons flew up. Chinamo looked at Bojio. His eyes were deep, like the vast ocean and the mountains of Kunlun. Under the layers of light, it was because of the long silence that finally started to boil. I do. The black veil matched with the white clothes from ancient times. The beauty created by the collision was even more layered. That was the most unique wedding that many people had ever seen. It was very romantic. Black feathers kept falling from the top of the church. They hit both of their faces. Everything seemed like something that could only be seen in a comic. Moreover, Lin Feng and Yun, who were standing beside them. You're mine from now on. This is what Lin Feng said. MMH, Yun Hu replied. He glanced at a certain someone's red ears and smiled. It was not easy for them to finally be together. From thinking that they would never meet again to finally recognizing each other. It seems that no relationship is easy. But it was precisely because of this that after experiencing separation, people would know how to cherish each other. Tears welled up in Shui Yaoyao's eyes. The others were the same. When their gazes landed, everything was clear. Unexpectedly, when Bojio tossed the flowers, she walked over to Hoshino and placed the flowers in his arms. Her voice was so faint that only the 2 of them could hear her. Hoshino, the promise is off. From now on, you have to live for yourself. Hoshino was shocked. Everyone knew what the bouquet of flowers at the wedding symbolized. She hoped that the person who received the bouquet would be as happy as she was. But when Bojio straightened her body, she added evilly, find a girlfriend soon. Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes. Chapter 1639. When Hoshino heard that, he glanced down at the bouquet in his hand. He was the only one present who wasn't wearing a suit and was only wearing a white shirt. The corners of his lips seemed to curl up, and there was a faint glow in his gentle jade-like eyes. I've always been very free. Basically, he was saying that the agreement was voluntary. Because it's UZ. So everything was voluntary. Is there such a feeling? You are not family, but you have been together since you were young. When he saw that she was lonely, he wanted to protect her. Hoshino would probably never forget the scene of that little young lord reaching out to him while he was covered in blood. At that time it was still raining, but because he was holding a hand, it seemed like the whole world wasn't so cold. Seeing her happy, he felt happy in his heart. She was missing. He wanted to find her frantically. Now she was like a witch, but there was light behind her. They were suitable to be relatives, not lovers. Chinamo was the kind of person who could make her eyes light up, make her feel that there was hope, and make her believe in certain things. And he was most suited to do this, to withdraw at the right time. Hoshino freed one hand and leaned forward, hugging Bojio lightly. Okay. The word good made Yu Cixin's expression turn even uglier. He looked directly at Chinamo. As the groom, how could he not react when his bride was being hugged by someone else? Chinamo glanced at him faintly. His expression was just like the character he played in the game, indifferent and with the aura of a wine immortal. It was as if he was saying, I'm already married, so you should be the one worrying. Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes again. Because of Hoshino's actions, no one noticed the mischievous smile on the priest's face when he held onto the Bible. He didn't look like a priest at all. Instead, when they took a closer look at his eyes, they looked similar to Bojio's. Only when William paid the bill did he realize that the priest was gone. On the other hand, there was an extra coat and a wig. What was going on? Before William could react, a priest ran over hurriedly. He was a typical blonde foreigner. When he saw William, he said, "Oh no. God will never forgive a person like you for stealing my Bible and my robe. Are you here to ruin the wedding?" William was speechless. Was there some kind of misunderstanding? He was the one who organized the wedding. Besides, the priest robe in his hand was not what he was wearing. Wait a minute. In other words, the priest just now was a fake? He couldn't tell. William admitted that he was a little confused. The golden-haired priest was still tugging at him. "I must drag you to Jesus, my God, and make you repent. How dare you hit a priest's head?" William wanted to say that he really wasn't the one who hit him, but a wave of believers surged out. At this time, a slender figure appeared next to the Lamborghini, but this time he changed into his own appearance. The AI system quickly identified Xiao He, and it was no longer confused. It recognized the person in front of it, but it was erased by that person. Now is not the time. However, that kid from the Qin clan is indeed not bad. This time, our Lord Jiu can be considered to have gotten what he wanted. After all, he has wanted to raise him since he was young. Xiao He was still resisting, obviously not wanting its data to be erased. Chapter 1640. At the church. William, who was the scapegoat, was being chased around the church. Was it wrong for him to wear a wig? That was why he shouldn't have attended the wedding of the devil Qin Mo. If it wasn't for Jiu, he wouldn't have come. What the hell is going on? William was almost out of breath from running. In the end, no one knew who the fake priest was, because the wedding wasn't affected. On the other hand, those roses and black feathers were also brought by the imposter. When Grandfather Butler found out about this, he had been puzzled. Why wasn't there any data on Little Blackie? Logically speaking, the fake priest would have passed by Little Blackie. Or was Little Blackie not activated? Impossible. But Little Blackie didn't have any reaction. Young Lord was the only one who could make it behave like this. Unless, at the thought of this, Grandpa Butler's usually elegant face changed. Master. Was Master back? Was that possible? The gentlemanly butler didn't tell Bojio. If he told young Lord when he wasn't sure, she would be stuck in the past. This matter had to be investigated. After the wedding, everyone went to the hotel. Only Qin Mo and Bojio stayed in the church. "I have something to show you." Qin Mo, who was dressed in an ancient white robe, couldn't resist him. After all, she liked to look at faces. They were both wearing the same diamond ring. Bojio was still wearing the black veil. Logically speaking, it wasn't convenient for her to move. But to Bojio it wasn't a problem. After all, she was famous for climbing walls. Walking in the black veil was still very handsome. But Qin Mo didn't let her go. Of course he had to lead his wife. Hence, Bojio was like a little kid, obediently being led by him. Occasionally, when she lifted her brows, the devilish aura of a demoness could be seen. When it came to this point, she was still a little unconvinced. When they were young, she had pounced on the Almighty like it was a game. Now it was a little difficult. The Almighty was too reserved. That wasn't good. But after marriage, she should be able to do whatever she wanted. Qin Mo arched a brow, glancing over. "What naughty thoughts are you having again?" Bojio smiled mischievously. "Brother Mo, we're already married. You can't simply suspect me. From now on, my priority is to get pregnant, not to do bad things." After she was done here today, she would seriously pay a visit to the Black Brothers. He wanted to see if there was anything good he could use on the Almighty. Hearing this, Qin Mo frowned. Sometimes this guy couldn't be too cooperative. He already regretted bringing up the subject of children. How could he forget that when this guy saw a child, he wouldn't have eyes for anyone else? The sky gradually darkened. Nightingale soared, but many black feathers still fell down. This was a scene that could only be seen in the devil realm. Even the vegetation beneath their feet was the color of smoke. Blue flowers floated on the water. Everything was too beautiful to be real. He brought her to the cliff behind the church. On the surface, there was nothing special about it. Wait for the sky to turn dark. Just like that, Qin Mo hugged Bojio and leaned against the tree. His voice was calm, his aura of abstinence making people want to flirt with him. It was a pity that Bojio's thoughts were seen through. Now, both her hands were pressed into the Almighty's embrace, unable to move at all. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.